Chapter 163. After they departed from the cave, they were traveling towards the island center where the demon dragon's heart was lying dormant. The depths of the treacherous ocean had almost become a paradise for powerful mutated beings. They could be seen wandering in the mountain ranges everywhere like they were taking leisure strolls. The center of the island was covered with thick smoke, giving the area a gloomy ambience. In the center of the island, a human-sized orb was radiating bright beams of light, resplendent and dazzling. Countless powerful mutated beings were wandering around the orb. The orb had a ruby-red surface as from within, one could see a bright red light flickering in a rhythm. Veins and roots ran chaotically on and around the orb, lessening the warm light radiated by the orb. This was the demon dragon's heart, the item Michael and Layla were searching for. Suddenly, the orb shuddered from within, glowing brighter and brighter. Roar! At this moment, no matter if it were the powerful mutated beings closer to the orb or those roaming on the outskirts of the island, they all roared loudly. Several tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of mutated beings roared together. This commotion could literally be described as earth-shaking, causing mountain ranges to fall and the void to collapse purely from the sound. The roars from several tens of thousands of powerful mutated beings were filled with absolute hatred for some unknown reason. The treacherous ocean's appearance was finally changed at this very moment after countless years. The entire island shook violently, the ground jolting and opening up chasms thousands of meters deep. Many of the surrounding mountains directly exploded as they could not withstand the roars of over 10,000 powerful mutated beings. The mountains and forests turned into a mess. Following closely, the powerful mutated beings still roaming outside roared angrily, flying toward the orb as fast as their limbs allowed them to. While the mutated beings were chaotically running around, two figures were slowly walking through the mist towards the glowing orb. There it is, it was Layla who said this, pointing her fingers at the glowing orb a couple of meters before them. Michael closely followed Layla while cautiously looking at all the wandering mutated beings in the area. His heart was pounding against his chest in fear because all of the mutated beings were at least at the soul refining stage, and he could even see a few level 10 fusion stage mutated beings guarding the orb. He had no more saliva to swallow as his mouth became dry. Any single of the mutated being could end their life right now if they detected their presence. After recalling the events that happened in the treacherous ocean, he identified only when he was alone that the mutated beings were able to detect him, but when he's with Layla, the death-kissed aura proved to be effective. The two of them took each step with utmost cautiousness, avoiding the gazes of the mutated beings. Currently, thousands of powerful mutated beings roared at the sky above them. Step by step, they got closer to the orb. Michael felt the warm energy coming from the orb, and soon, he could hear a faint heart-beating sound. "Place the dragon on the heart," she whispered to him. He grabbed the baby dragon tied to his chest as gently and silently as he could before placing the baby dragon on the orb. The moment the baby dragon's body touched the orb, it began to tremble violently, producing an unearthly humming sound. His heart skipped a beat, fearing the commotion would draw the attention of these wandering mutated beings. Just as he was about to reach for the swords, Layla grabbed his hands, shaking her head. "What now?" he whispered, but instead of answering him back, she just gently tapped his shoulder, wordlessly telling him to wait. Calming himself down, he just stared at the baby dragon who was lying on the orb, absorbing the heat coming from it. Crack! 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 Suddenly, the orb began to crack, producing crackling noises. The veins and roots on the orb's surface retracted themselves while the cracks got wider and wider. He started to sweat under his robes, fearing that they were going to notice them, but fortunately, the mutated beings were oblivious to what's happening. "Look," Layla tapped at his shoulder to turn his gaze away from the mutated beings to the baby dragon. His eyes immediately widened in shock and surprise as the baby dragon's grayish scales began to revert back to their original shiny crimson-red scales at a visible speed. Just as they were witnessing the changes in the baby dragon, the orb suddenly exploded, yet surprisingly, the explosion did not produce any sounds but a bright light of flash that momentarily made them blind. When the bright light disappeared, they saw the baby dragon floating in the air a couple of meters above their heads, carrying two small orbs of violet fire in its claws. Locking her eyes with the two orbs of violet fire, Layla raised her hand at the baby dragon as he slowly flew towards her. "Is he Yes, he's cured, Layla said indifferently without taking her eyes off the violet fire orbs. A relieved smile appeared on his face. He did not care for the 2 violet fire orbs as much as he cared for the baby dragon. After everything that he went through, he expected something dramatic to happen before curing the baby dragon, but contrary to his expectation, the baby dragon got cured by the demon dragon's heart in a couple of minutes. He was cradling the baby dragon as if he was his baby, and beside him, Layla immediately put the 2 fire orbs in her space ring. So those 2 balls of fire, his voice trailed away, demon dragon's heart, she said, sighing in relief. Although this trip was extremely dangerous and she nearly lost her life, in the end, it was all worth it because she got not 1 but 2 demon dragon hearts. To suppress Christopher's curse, she only needed the energy of half the demon dragon heart. The remaining energy would be enough for her to break through from level 4 to level 6 of the fusion stage. Michael noticed the changes in her facial expression, and he knew it was because of the 2 orbs of fire she put in her space ring. If he had the power, he would have at least taken 1 of them, but for now, if she decided not to share them with him, he could do nothing. For now, he wanted her to suppress the cure so he would get a soul refining stage cultivator to protect his base of operations and the herbal garden. The lesson of no freebies in the world suited not only the Earth but also here, and in fact, it suited more for this world than Earth, as every cultivator he met in this world has their own schemes and they would rarely lift a finger unless they have something to gain. The demon dragon hearts was her payment for leading him here, though she would have died if it wasn't for him. However, he too couldn't have survived alone without her help, so he was okay with her taking the demon dragon hearts. Let's leave this place. He did not need any push as he couldn't wait to leave this forsaken place, at least for now. When he was about to turn back to go in the direction where they came, Layla shook her head. There should be an ancient teleportation array set by the Dragon Clan if we go in that direction. She pointed at the direction further into the island, and noticing the worried look on his face, she reassured, "Don't worry, I can sense the array's faint energy. Besides, in this direction, there will be no more formations from here on." The part where she said no more formation instantly made him agree to her plan because he hated formation and ran out of perception pills. "Come," she said before taking out 1 of the demon dragon hearts from her space ring so the mutated beings won't attack them. The demon dragon heart substituted the death-kissed aura, only it was better and effective. Having come this far, he had completed what he needed to do in the treacherous ocean. No matter if it was the extremely valuable herbs or curing the baby dragon or reaching the higher levels in cultivation, he had gained more than he initially expected. The herbs, in particular, the dozens of herbs all approached thousands of years in maturity, and combined with the fact that they were almost unobtainable anywhere else, it made them even more valuable. Each herb he picked was like a priceless treasure on the continent. Soon afterward, he followed Layla behind towards the teleportation array, carrying the baby dragon in his arms. When he first met the baby dragon, it was barely radiating an aura of a level 1 arch sensing stage, but now, his energy was slowly and steadily climbing high as he already reached level 8 of the arch sensing stage. Michael realized that it was the illness that was stopping the baby dragon from reaching a higher stage, and by inspecting the baby dragon's body, he noticed the changes in his wings. His weak and frail wings had now become strong and firm. He could tell that soon after he woke up, he could fly like an actual dragon, and also Michael expected him to breathe fire. Imagining the things he expected the baby dragon to do, he walked behind Layla further into the Dragon Island. Chapter 164. Through the gloomy mist and forest filled with gigantic ominous black trees, Michael followed her towards the teleportation array that was supposed to teleport them back to somewhere in the Azer continent. The baby dragon was still asleep in Michael's arms, having no ideas of the dangers around him. They both uttered no words, as although they had the demon dragon heart's aura around them, they took no chance by chit-chatting. Therefore the journey was pretty gloomy and silent. Eventually, after walking for several hours, they walked out of the forest in the middle region of the treacherous ocean. After walking out of the forest, they were welcomed by a narrow path between 2 gigantic mountains. After pondering slightly, she said, "If I recall correctly, this path between the Ostium Mountains will lead us to the Twilight Ground, and from there we can go to the teleportation array. Remember, it's extremely dangerous inside it. Many soul-refining and even fusion-stage mutated beings will be there." "Ostium Mountains?" He was slightly surprised to hear the name because ostium ore was one of the requirements to upgrade the Dawnbringer to level 2. Lady Layla, is it possible for me to collect some ostium ore here? After pondering slightly, she said, ostium ore should only exist in the Twilight Ground. You can't mine these mountains. Are you looking to forge a weapon? Michael nodded, seeing her correctly guess his intention of seeking the ostium ore. Since she didn't look too surprised, he realized using ostium to forge a weapon was not a rare thing in this world, and it did make sense as it was required to upgrade the Dawnbringer to only level 2. Where is this Twilight Ground? He asked. The Twilight Ground is not in the depths of the island but under an extremely hidden cliff in the middle region. It tunnels straight into the ground and is extremely deep. After wiggling through the narrow cliff for another hour, they finally found the entrance of the pit under a cliff according to the geography described by Layla. The entrance to the pit was a huge hole 100 meters wide. The hole directly sunk into the earth and was pitch black. When the duo stood at the edge of the unfathomably deep pit, they could sense a ghastly, bone-chilling wind from it. He stood at the edge, staring into the darkness with curiosity and cautiousness. His eyebrows were furrowed and his calm expression instantly became rather stern. When we go down, we should be cautious. It'll help you gather some ore, but remember, you can't take too much of it as it might draw some unwanted attraction towards us. Understood, Lady Layla? Good, let's go down, she said confidently, before leaping down first. Following her, he jumped into the pitch-black hole, quickly descending into the darkness. The Twilight Ground was completely enshrouded in darkness, nothing could be seen. After falling for several hundred kilometers, some light gradually appeared beneath their feet. The light expanded in size as he quickly descended before it finally enveloped Michael. His vision was no longer pitch black but filled with colorful light. It was extremely pretty as the light would glimmer from time to time. The glimmers of light were dense and they twinkled like the stars in the sky. The sight stunned Michael. He felt like he was swimming in outer space as he stared at the starry sky around him. The two of them continued their descent down the pit at great speeds. They had no idea just how deep it was. They had fallen for at least 1,000 kilometers, yet they had still not hit the bottom. Along the way, the two of them had also seen many mutated beings falling into the hole deeper and deeper, but they did not detect the two of them. With their constant descent, Michael slowly sensed that the hole seemed to be permeated with an odd energy. The temperature here would constantly change, sometimes bone-chillingly cold and other times scorching hot. It was as if they constantly traveled between two regions of opposite climates. What is this place? He couldn't help but wonder after witnessing everything in this place. This hole doesn't seem to be naturally formed. Did this hole appear after the island changed? Also, this hole plunges in a straight path from the surface right into the earth. It's as if a massive object fell from the sky and carved this out. It's my thought too. This tunnel is just too straight. There are no bends at all, and images of the starry sky actually appear here. If you connect these facts, it's as if something from outer space had really collided with the island before creating such a deep crater. Layla broke her silence and agreed with him. She too had a hint of curiosity in her eyes. They continued their way down. Eventually, after falling for several hours, they finally hit solid ground. They had arrived at the bottom of the hole. The pit still permeated with colorful nebulae. Starlight glimmered faintly as if they were each star that floated in space. They were innumerable, filling up the entire place. Michael glanced around and discovered that the bottom was extremely large. It stretched as far as the eye could see, and he could feel that the weird energy was even thicker here. The surrounding temperature constantly alternated between a frigid coldness and a scorching heat. Just what is this weird energy? Is this celestial energy? Nah, this is something else, he mumbled to himself as he stared at the surroundings. Even his inherited memories of Abras contained no information on the weird energy here. At this very moment, a strand of scorching energy fused with a strand of the frigid energy midair. Michael and Layla immediately focused on it with their senses. They discovered that the energy created when the extremely hot and extremely cold energies fused was indeed extremely similar to the energy radiated by the formations and the mutated beings. There must be some connection between this hole and what happened to the Dragon Clan. just how many mysteries this world holds? He asked himself before beginning to search the surroundings. After he traveled 100 meters, some dust that glimmered slightly on the ground caught his attention. Squatting down, he gently grabbed a handful of the glimmering chunks of stone and closely examined it. Don't collect that. Collect the ores that are floating in the air. Suddenly, he heard Layla's voice coming from behind. He glanced at the pebbles of ostium in his hand and then looked toward the glimmering ores that floated in mid-air like stars. Although the glimmering ores of ostium in the air were much smaller than the ores on the ground, they glowed brighter than those on the ground. Those ostium ores floating in the sky are purer than the ores on the ground, she said, and then she moved away from him to quench her curiosity about this place. Glancing at the ores in his hand, he hesitated slightly. He did not throw them away, but instead, he put them into his system storage. Then, he began to collect the ostium ores floating in the sky. As the ores in the air were extremely well dispersed, his speed of collecting them was not great and their small size did not help him. A while after he was collecting the ores, Layla's voice came from the distance. Come over here. Michael immediately stopped his collection, walking in Layla's direction to see why she called him in the middle of his treasure hunt. When he got there, he saw Layla standing in front of a human corpse. They did not know how long it had been dead for, but its appearance had not changed at all. Layla was examining the corpse curiously while he sensed the weird energy in the surroundings constantly entering the corpse and slowly fusing into its bones. This weird energy just happened to be produced when the extremely hot and extremely cold energies fused. Looking at it, he's already been dead for thousands of years, but there's no sign of decomposition at all, she said with a deep voice. Michael too stared at the corpse with interest. Lady Alden, I can feel that there are some changes currently occurring in its body. I think this weird energy is mutating the body. At this very moment, the corpse on the ground snapped open its eyes without any prior signs. Its eyes were dull without any signs of life. It immediately produced a great roar, echoing through the entire pit. Afterward, it slowly stood up from the ground and turned its head like it was scanning its surroundings. His hands were already reaching for the swords, but Layla shook her head, wordlessly telling him not to do anything. Let's back away, she whispered to him, slowly backing away from the mutated being while the mutated being started to wander around the place mindlessly. Although she had fulfilled what she needed in coming here, she had no intention of leaving immediately, unlike she pretended. She ventured onward in the twilight ground with Michael as she was extremely curious about the transformation of the island that occurred all those years ago. Of course, she had no idea of telling him everything, especially the fact that she was leading him a long way instead of a short way to the teleportation array. The area of the twilight ground was unknown to Michael, therefore, he could only trust that she knew the path and follow her behind. They traveled for a dozen or so kilometers in one direction but still had not reached the end. As they traveled, figures of the mutated beings gradually appeared in their sights. Since she said not to collect too much ostium ores, he sighed helplessly and kept walking past all the ores floating in the sky. However, after walking behind her for several hours, he creased his brows. We've actually come back to where we were before. Chapter 165. Considering Michael searched the place for ostium ores before starting to collect the ores floating in the air, he was familiar with the layout and he instantly realized that they came back where they were before. Lady Alden, we were here before, he said, and by the look on her face, he could tell she also noticed this phenomenon. This is the mystic disorientating formation. How is this possible? Why would it appear here? She mumbled under her breath unconsciously, and because of the perception pills, he heard her. Lady Alden, are you familiar with this formation? His tone of voice contained a tint of doubt. Yes, I learned about this. She regained her usual calm composure, hiding confusion in her eyes. Where dash, just follow my steps. She waved her hands, stopping Michael from asking any questions about the formation. He began to doubt that Layla's intention of coming here is more than to obtain the demon dragon hearts. He hesitated for a while before he followed her behind. He decided to trust Layla this once to see if she had a method to break through the formation or not. Pay attention to my footsteps. You must not take a step wrong. If you do, you won't be able to break out. She warned him again. She then began to step back and forth like she was slow dancing. There were 38 steps required in total to walk out from the formation. When she took the 9th step, the surroundings immediately began to change. She discovered that she had actually arrived in a vast starry sky. Afterward, Michael appeared behind her. When he realized he's now in a vast starry sky, they all stared blankly. They were extremely shocked. Unlike before, at this moment, he could see outer space as his vision was filled with nebulas, Milky Ways, bright stars, and even colorful lush planets. Whoa! Is everything before me an illusion, or have I really come to outer space? He said in shock. He could not tell whether what he saw right now was real or fake. Michael observed the surroundings, frowning his eyebrows. A couple of seconds after he was staring at the scene speechlessly, Layla began to explain, "It's not an illusion, it's real. We've really come to outer space." Whoever cast the formation must have had some terrifying level of understanding about formations. The steps we're taking right now to walk out of the formation just happens to match the bridge that leads to the other side. Every step matches perfectly with an extremely crucial point of the bridge. Stepping wrongly would be like stepping off the bridge and falling into the water. What would happen if we took the wrong step? Although what she said was like a fictitious story to him, he believed it firmly because he was not the one to doubt. After all, he has a system with him. Who would believe that? She shrugged, "I don't know. This formation connects worlds and is extremely profound. Everything before us is real. We've followed the bridge and arrived in outer space, and only by following it we can reach the very end successfully. If we take a step wrong during this time, perhaps we will return to the treacherous ocean, or maybe we will be thrown into the vast outer space or simply die a horrible death." Hearing her words, he became rather stern. As the system went safe mode, he treated everything with utmost vigilance. Who would have cast this formation? They actually extended it into outer space, bridging outer space and the world. Unbelievable, he sighed in amazement, his inner voice filled with sincere respect and admiration. "Let's go," she said solemnly, continuing on her way with mystical steps. He quickly shoved all of his curiosity and questions to the back of his mind, carefully following her steps in the empty space. With every step they took, the surrounding starry space would undergo some minute changes, as if they had crossed several hundred miles with just a couple of steps. When the two of them took the 13th step, the scene before them suddenly changed. The starry space around them disappeared and they had arrived at a circular tunnel 10 meters in diameter. It was chaotic around the tunnel, one could see nothing but darkness and hear an unearthly humming. "This is the spatial tunnel," she said with a deep voice. "What's a spatial tunnel?" Michael asked subconsciously out of curiosity, holding the baby dragon tightly. This was the first time he had ever heard of something called a spatial tunnel. "I don't know either." She shook her head quickly. He knew she was lying, but he also knew she wouldn't reveal anything even if he asked her. However, he couldn't help but wonder where she got all this information about formations and everything related to the treacherous ocean. They traveled through the tunnel step by step. When they reached the 30th step, the tunnel suddenly began to tremble violently. Soon afterward, a powerful storm of energy suddenly appeared far away and quickly rushed toward the group. Layla's expression changed abruptly as she cried out, "Spatial storm! We need to get out of here as soon as possible before the storm gets worse." With that, her footsteps suddenly sped up, quickly advancing forwards. The spatial storm rushed toward them from behind, quickly surging at the two of them. It forced them to advance as fast as they could. Right now, he was completely focused on her steps and copying her steps to perfection. As the last step fell, Michael's vision suddenly opened up. The spatial tunnel and the spatial storm that surged behind him all disappeared as if he had arrived in a different world. It was extremely peaceful in the surroundings, without any dangers. However, he had no time to observe this foreign world. He hurriedly turned around to look back and only saw a ripple in space. Layla appeared before Michael, slightly panic-stricken. Her forehead was wet with sweat, clearly due to being overly anxious. When she saw that she had finally left the damned spatial tunnel, Layla immediately relaxed slightly. She roughly scanned the surroundings, before turning around and looking backward to see if there were any mutated beings nearby. Layla sat silently nearby with her vina in her hands, but she was stern. In this foreign world, there was an unknown number of dangers. After being exhausted mentally, she needed to rest a bit before continuing their journey towards the teleportation array. Even up to this point, Michael had no idea that she took the long path filled with unknown dangers and mystery rather than taking the safe and shorter path to the teleportation array. Having no ideas of her deception, he looked around and realized that he was currently in an endless wasteland. It was desolate, without any grass or signs of life. There was no sun or stars in the sky, it was a hazy gray and did not even have clouds. After a while, he turned his gaze to Layla, who just stood up, ready to leave. Where to next? After some silence and thought, she replied, "There should be a path leading to the teleportation array a couple of miles away from here. I can sense it. Let's go," she said, but she herself wasn't completely sure about what lies next. However, since that person who cast the formation put so much effort into constructing a spatial tunnel that crosses through the stars on the Dragon's Island leading up to here, she believed that there's some secret hidden here and she wanted to see what it is. Michael hesitated slightly because even though they didn't meet any mutated beings on their way here, this place and everything gave him a bad feeling. For now, the only thing he could do was follow Layla, in hopes that she knew the way of getting out of here. At this very moment, an ancient, desolate presence appeared in the far-off distance. It was vast and boundless, quickly expanding into the distance with a soul-shaking might. Feeling the presence, the expressions of the two changed greatly. Before the presence, they felt like even an ant was more significant than them. The pair could not even think of resisting before the presence. Shortly afterward, two colors, red and blue, appeared beyond the horizon. They plunged into the sky like two pillars, radiating with an ancient and desolate presence. Both of them unconsciously looked at the two pillars of light. Afterward, their minds rumbled. Currently, they simultaneously envisioned a foreign scene. They witnessed the chaos before everything, as well as the birth of stars, Milky Ways, and even the universes. Wake up! At this very moment, a powerful shout of the system reverberated through Michael's head. It woke him up and the previous scene of chaos completely disappeared. He returned to reality and he was not the only one who awakened. Even Layla beside him returned to her senses from the powerful shout of the system. System, what the hell was that? What did I just see? Did I just witness the scene where this world was created? Michael's mind was filled with questions, his hands were shaking uncontrollably. The scene with the primordial chaos constantly flashed through his head. He had never felt this terrified in his entire life. The scene of the world creation and the presence of the two lights shook his core, making his mind go blank and weak. The system level is too low to answer the host's question, and the stuff on that level is not something you should know or the system can explain right now. What you just witnessed is not the creation of this world but everything. With your power level, knowing more about this will only lead you to certain death, the system said seriously, and just before he could curse the system for not telling him anything, its voice sounded again in his mind. However, the system's serious tone took a 180 turn as it sounded like it was cooking up some plan. Layla, on the other hand, did not pay any attention to Michael. She just kept looking at the two pillars of light that surged toward the sky in the distance. Her expressions were mixed, grim while also pleasantly surprised. "What are you doing?" He saw her taking out Angel's Vina from her space ring. "I'm going to harness some energy from the pillars," she said before dashing towards the light pillars in the distance, giving him no time to stop her. "What?" Michael was astounded. Although the system did not clearly explain the origins or anything about the two energy pillars, he got a sense that they were not something he or Layla should meddle with without proper knowledge. "Stop her!" He heard the system scream in rage. The sound of the system almost made him feel like his head was about to explode. "Bitch, bitch, bitch." Having heard of the system scream and curse like never before, he rushed behind Layla to stop her from doing something incredibly stupid, not because he wanted to save her but he didn't want her to do something that could jeopardize his and the baby dragon's life. Chapter 166. As soon as Michael approached the two light pillars, he felt intense cold energy and scorching hot energy at the same time. His body suddenly jolted and his steps came to a screeching halt. His face immediately became bright red while a terrifying heat began to radiate from his body. He could only feel that scorching energy had entered his body, like a red-hot branding iron. It radiated with a terrifying heat that was destroying his body. Meanwhile, Layla's expression also changed abruptly. She immediately became sheet white. An extremely cold aura began to radiate from her, and there were vague signs of the ground freezing. She had also encountered a situation like Michael, though the energy within her was frigid rather than scorching. Wherever the energy passed by, that part of her body became crystallized. With her level of strength, she shouldn't have even got closer to the first energies, yet she tried to harness both the yin and yang energy from them. As much as he loved to converse with the system, it was not the time, as he struggled to keep the scorching hot energy from his body burning him from within. Now the yin and yang from the first energies looking for a suitable vessel, and your bodies cannot handle them right now. The system can use the first energies to come out of the safe mode, but the host must transfer the excess yang energy that just entered your body to Layla. How? The yang energy from the first energies radiated a terrifying heat in his body. He knew his body would not be able to withstand it for too long. His organs felt like they were on fire, producing waves of violent pain. Outside Michael's body, red ripples of air that were vaguely visible spread out. It was the heat from his body, and it caused the surrounding temperature to skyrocket. Are you still fucking sleeping? Even after everything he had gone through, the baby dragon was sleeping in his arms, snoring. He wanted to punch the baby dragon's little face after hearing him snore. Beside him, Layla sat on the ground with her eyes closed. Signs of agonizing pain could be seen on her face. She radiated with an extremely frigid coldness that formed a thick layer of ice in a meter radius around her, and occasionally he could feel an intense hot wave surging from her body. Michael and Layla were each absorbing the yang and the yin energies from the first energies. The characteristics of the two energies were polar opposites, contrasting sharply with one another. There are two methods to transfer the yin and yang energies between your bodies. Just spit it out, I can't resist much longer. Michael said hurriedly. In his body, the yang energy was like a burning flame that slowly inched its way toward his mind, while the yin energy within his body slowly began to crystallize his skin. Master, you and that girl beside you each absorbed the supreme yang and supreme yin qi. If you want to neutralize this energy, both of you must cooperate. You must cancel it by using a method to balance the yin and the yang and then absorb it. This will bring great benefits along with it, Ziying said. He carried a rather weird expression. Bang her. He almost stumbled down when he heard the system shout bang her in his mind, and for a second, he thought he misheard the system. Are you kidding me? Having sex with her is the quickest way to neutralize the energies in your body and help the system come out of the safe mode. Don't be such a wuss, just go and bang her, host. You said two methods, what's the second method? Gritting his teeth, he tried to resist the energies from killing him, and in this struggling moment, he failed to notice the yang energy, which is positive and flaming energy, slowly being absorbed by the baby dragon. Although the second method is difficult, it's the safest method to neutralize the energy without the host has to have sex with the woman. Well, kinda. What do you mean, kinda? This method is like having sex but without physical contact. The previous owner of this body has learned about this method of neutralizing the yin and yang energy. The system brought the memories hidden deep within his kind to make him remember, because he was unable to recall them due to the excruciating pain he's in. Spirit walking, he mumbled the name of this method, but his face became even grimmer because this method was considered taboo, an act that was hated by all the cultivators. It was just like the system said, sex without physical contact. Some cultivators thought that this method would pollute their souls. However, Michael would rather choose the safest method than the quickest one. Besides, he considered having sex without the consent of the other one rape, and he would never stoop that low, no matter what. Suddenly, the muscles on Michael's face began to spasm. His face was full of pain. The yang energy in his body was currently burning away at his vitality and flesh. It was as if scorching flames currently flowed at his chest, drawing closer and closer to his head. Meanwhile, Michael's entire body had become like a red-hot branding iron, now bright red. Arg! A howl resounded from the side. It was filled with pain. Layla radiated a surging coldness. The yin energy from the first energies had already turned half of her body into an ice sculpture. Why is this happening? Am I going to die here today? Her face was filled with confusion and regret. She had never thought harnessing this unknown energy she learned from her mentor would prove to be this deadly. Placing the baby dragon on the ground, he slowly walked towards Layla. This is all because of your foolishness, but I do have a method to neutralize the energies. The spirit walking. The moment he heard the two words spirit walking, she became torn between rage and shame. She glared viciously at him. If looks could kill him, he would have shred into pieces by now. What? How dare you? I'd rather die than dash. When she reached this point, her expression changed once again. She produced a moan filled with pain. The situation inside her body was worsening. She had already arrived at death's door. All signs of life were frozen within her as the Yin energy had expanded toward her head. Even her soul would be frozen, and after that, the Yang energy would burn her soul. Shut up. I'm not going to die with you. He became redder and redder. It was not only because of the Yang energy inside his body but also anger towards her. The Yang energy was roasting his body like a stove from within. If he did not have the system and the baby dragon unknowing for him absorbing the energy, this strand of Yang energy from the first energies would have dissolved his body already. His gaze gradually became determined. Gritting his teeth, he directly lunged toward her and placed his head on her frozen forehead to start the spirit walking. Layla immediately snapped open her eyes. Her alluring phoenix eyes lost the calmness from before and were now filled with panic. She tried as hard as she could to raise her arms that were frozen to the point of absolute numbness in an attempt to push him away, but she just could not do so with the current condition of her body. What are you doing? You bastard. Go away. Her voice was filled with panic. She was a strong woman who protected the purity of both her body and her soul. Even if she died, she did not want to be sullied by others. It was all your fault. Who said you to harness that fucking weird energy in the first place? He yelled at her before his consciousness slowly began to fade away. You bastard, go away. She wanted to push him away from her, but she was incapable of that. He tightly grabbed her shoulders to stop her from resisting. The coldness radiating from her just happened to be the counter for the Yang energy. When he chanted the ancient words to start the spirit walking with her, the extreme coldness and heat from their bodies came together. There were vague signs of neutralization. It weakened the rigidness and scorching heat from both of them a little. Layla's deeply frozen body also showed signs of melting. Not long afterward, all the ice on her body melted and she was returning to her previous state. The system is creating the Omega level protection. 2% completed, 3% completed. Although the notifications in his mind were a piece of great news to him, he couldn't celebrate as the danger of the Yang and Yin energies remained. Arg! What are you doing? You bastard, let me go. She cried out as she struggled violently. She began to resist with all she had, sensing her spirit being intruded on by his. At this very moment, the energies within them had already reached their necks. Michael did not act like Layla. For him, spirit walking was not equal to having sex. He couldn't care less of the purity of her soul, at least with his method. He was not raping her physically, that was all that mattered to him. Ignoring Layla's violent struggles, he immediately focused harder to keep the connection between their souls. Gradually, the scorching hot Yang energy from his body burned their clothes, revealing Michael's toned and Layla's silky soft milky body under her dress. You bastard. Release me. If you do it, I will never forgive you. Let me go immediately. She screamed, resisting the connection between them desperately. If it was under normal situations, the connection wouldn't have been established successfully, but because she tried to harness both the Yang and the Yin energy, the ancient spell worked without a hitch. Besides, she had no strength left in her body to fend him off. 38% completed, the host is doing a great job. The Yin and Yang energies from the first energies are extremely pure, so once you balance them out and absorb them, not only will it bring great benefits by increasing your strength, your body and soul will also adapt to the energy. If you ever encounter any Yin or Yang energy in the future, your bodies will have the power to resist them completely. There aren't any side effects, right? He asked the system in his mind, but the answer he received almost broke the connection between him and Layla. kinda. Chapter 167, What the fuck do mean kinda? When you have physical sex, your seed will sprout as a new life inside your female counterpart. Yeah, it's called a baby, said Michael. He wondered whether the system was trying to annoy him intentionally or not. Just like the physical sex, there might be a teeny tiny chance for a spirit child to appear inside her after the spirit walking. Spirit child, what the heck is that? He asked, still maintaining the connection between him and Layla. To put it simply, it's a baby without a physical body, but the system can make sure the spirit child inherit nothing from the host such as talents and characteristics. Do it, he said without even the slightest hesitation. He did not have any idea of having a kid until he reached his goal of controlling the world. Besides, he was not in love with Layla and would certainly not have a kid with her, a spirit baby or a real baby. And can't you stop a spirit child from forming? There's only a little chance for a spirit child to appear through spirit walking. At the moment, the system cannot stop the spirit child from forming but can leave a mark in her body that would prevent the spirit child from inheriting anything from the host, whatever, he said before concentrating on keeping the connection between him and Layla and neutralizing the energies. Little by little, he began to lose consciousness. 58% completed, an unearthly humming sound emerged in the desolate wasteland, making the dead world slightly livelier. The sound continued for an hour, before slowly quieting down. Afterward, there were no more sounds. The wasteland recovered its deathly silence. At the moment, Michael and Layla lay on the wasteland naked. They both had their eyes closed, currently unconscious. No one knew whether they had fallen asleep or fallen unconscious. A miniature version of the red and blue energy on the horizon appeared above their bodies before gradually fading away from the sight. Layla's veil was already removed, revealing her appearance. She was extremely beautiful, to the point where it could no longer be described as alluring or kingdom-toppling. On Michael's back, many scratches crisscrossed. They did not break through his skin, but there were clearly visible marks. The two of them lay on the cold ground just like this. Whether they were in deep sleep or unconscious, they did not wake up even after a long time. 98% completed, initializing the termination process of safe mode. Absorbing the first energies. Forming a shield preventing the Omegas from detecting the creator energy. Shield successfully formed. The host has received a legendary gift box. Found excess amount of yang energy in the host's body. Activating energy devourer. Experience points converted 50,000. Experience points converted 100,000. Experience points converted 70,000. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is Body Strengthening Stage Level 8. Experience points converted 50,000. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is Body Strengthening Stage Level 9. Michael was completely unconscious and oblivious of what's happening to him. The energy devourer kept converting the weak excess yang energy remained in his body to experience points, and because the first energy was extremely powerful compared to the arch energy, the conversion directly made him break through a couple of levels at once. On the other hand, Layla could only reach the next sublevel as her body couldn't use the excess yang energy in her body as the system did. Experience points converted 70,000. Experience points converted 150,000. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is Body Strengthening Stage Level 10. From afar, the two pillars of red and blue light remained, stretching into the sky. They gave off slivers of yin and yang energy that slowly fused into the two. However, the energy was no longer able to cause any harm to the unconscious duo, and as soon as the energy entered their bodies, it would be balanced out, turning into gentle energy before being absorbed by them. A portion fused with their bodies, while the remaining part merged with their heads. It caused some slight changes to their souls, strengthening them at the same time. However, most of the energy went straight into Michael's body because the system sucked in as much energy as possible to enhance its protection against the Omegas. At this very moment, the two pillars of light in the distance slowly disappeared. With their disappearance, the first energy in the surroundings vanished instantly, but the energy devourer still kept converting the excess energy in his body, making him near the core formation stage. Congratulations to the host for reaching the next stage, the core formation stage. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is Core Formation Stage Level 1. After he reached the Core Formation stage, the thin layer of light around his body slowly vanished, stopping his cultivation spree. Wake up, sleepyhead. Wakey wakey wakey. Soon after Michael's consciousness began to return, he heard a child's voice and felt his face becoming wetter and wetter. The spirit walking put a major strain on his soul and body, therefore, he couldn't open his eyes or move his body quickly. Wake up, it's been 2 days, I'm hungry. Michael heard the child's voice again. It was definitely a boy's voice, but he could hear a tint of roughness in the childish voice he's been hearing. Give me meat. Or I'll start eating you. As soon as the child's voice disappeared, he felt a slight pain of something trying to take a bite out of his cheek. The sharp pain made him move his hands to his face while slowly opening his eyes. As soon as his vision became clearer, he was welcomed by a pleasant surprise, the baby dragon. You're awake, you're awake, you're awake. The baby dragon's crimson scales glistened brighter than before. He looked a little grown up, like a 2-month-old puppy. Just like a puppy who met his owner after a few days, the baby dragon bounced up and down wiggling his long tail. You can talk, Michael sighed before smiling at the baby dragon. He then grabbed the bouncing baby dragon, hugging the baby dragon and placing a gentle kiss on his forehead. Hugging the baby dragon, he subconsciously wriggled slightly, but when he moved, a numbing moan was heard by Michael. The voice carried some pain. Michael's slight wriggling had finally woken up Layla. Her eyes struggled to adjust to the light after being unconscious for a long time. After the blurriness faded away, she saw the naked Michael and the baby dragon licking his face. Shortly afterward, all the images from a few days ago flashed through her head like a film. Layla's expression immediately became torn between rage and shame. At this moment, she pushed Michael away using all of her physical strength, which was higher than Michael's due to her fusion stage cultivation stage. She then immediately climbed up. When she saw that she was completely naked under the sky, without anything covering her body and the feeling of her soul had been tainted by him, tears immediately began to well up in her beautiful eyes. That human is mad, what did you do? The baby dragon stopped showering Michael's face with kisses and climbed onto his shoulder. Forcefully resisting her anger, Layla pulled out a new violet dress from her space ring and quickly draped it over herself. She stared viciously at him and the baby dragon with flames of rage, while more and more tears welled up. Her eyes were filled with misery. Sensing the hostility towards them in her eyes, the baby dragon hissed at her, ready to attack her any second. Wow, I've reached the core formation stage. Just like the baby dragon, he too prepared himself not to fight her but to run as fast as he could from her because he knew she was overwhelmed by rage and she would not listen to any reason. System, don't worry host, the system has left a mark in her soul while you were spirit walking. She cannot hurt you and Harris a gift for you helping the system come out of the safe mode. The system voice now sounded more humane. The voice sounded like a man and a woman at the same time. However, the return of the system put a wide grin on Michael's face. The very next moment, a black outfit began to cover his body from toe to chest. If he saw himself in a mirror he would instantly recognize this iconic outfit once worn by the one and only character Blade, the part vampire, part human. Nonetheless, the outfit was not exactly the same as in the movies. The system had made some changes such as adding shiny metal chest plates, silver embodiment on the edges, and a few other noticeable changes so he wouldn't stand out too much in the crowd. Despite the indescribable beauty standing in front of him, he was too focused on himself. It's so good to be back together, Michael said under his breath, cracking his neck and knuckles. Looking at the grin on his face, she became furious and roared at him, you bastard, you beast, taking advantage of people. You actually used such a despicable method to sully my soul. I will never forgive you. After I kill you and that dragon, I'll kill myself. Layla was a woman who seemed gentle on the outside but she was actually tough on the inside. She seemed to be a rather gentle and quiet person but her personality was extremely staunch. She was unable to endure being defiled like this. Chapter 168 The angel's vina appeared in her hands. She placed it mid-air and quickly began to play it with both hands. Every time she struck a note gently, it would shoot out a powerful sound wave at Michael. "How dare you!" The baby dragon bared his teeth seeing her attack them. His dragon instincts kicked in as his belly began to glow brighter and brighter. Michael felt his shoulder getting warmer where the baby dragon is standing. He quickly realized the baby dragon is going to use the dragon's breath. Even with the baby dragon's breath, he knew he couldn't hurt Layla because of the cultivation gap between them. The baby dragon was just at the level 10 formation stage while Layla just reached level 6 of the fusion stage after consuming the Yin energy from the first energies. System, the mark you left on her, will it protect the baby dragon? It won't, but the baby dragon has also absorbed the Yang energy from the first energies. As a result, a few changes occurred to his body. Now, if the baby dragon and she fought, it would be equivalent to Yang energy encountering the Yin energy. It would be nullified instantly, prevent the two of them from harming each other. As I said before, it is so awesome to be back in the game again. He was relieved to hear the answer, plus, he now really began to appreciate the system more. The last few days had been an eye-opener for him. At first, he depended on the system too much, and then, he began to ignore the system as he didn't want to depend on the system too much. However now, the treacherous ocean made him realize one ultimate truth. He was put on this world with the system for a reason. In his mind the reason was to control this world. To be able to do that, unlike back on Earth, he must learn to depend on not only himself but also on the system. He decided to balance between depending on the system too much and ignoring the system. He had to find a middle ground. "Stand down, baby dragon, she cannot hurt us, really?" The baby dragon immediately cooled down, trusting Michael's words without a doubt. Michael then playfully rubbed the baby dragon's chin before starting to slowly walk towards Layla. This was his time to be the badass. "Calm down, woman, would you have rather preferred me to have sex with you than using the spirit walking?" Michael asked, slightly moving his body to evade her attacks. Layla's eyes had returned to the coldness from before and she quickly played the vina with her two hands. Each note produced was filled with killing intent, shooting toward Michael. The sound waves grew denser and denser, blotting out the surroundings. Gradually, it formed a cage that locked down Michael and cut off any route of escape. There was nothing but a calm yet arrogant smile on his face. As the system said, the sound waves strangely transformed into energy when they collided with Michael. They just brushed past him. It could only make his hair and the long coat flutter back. The light in his eyes flickered a few more times. He grinned looking at her fruitless attacks, letting the dense sound waves in the surroundings strike his body as he walked towards her. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 2,000 badass points. The sound waves struck Michael like moths flying to a flame. However, with no exceptions whatsoever, the sound waves were unable to harm him. "That tickles," Michael giggled playfully, driving her crazy. The baby dragon also let out an arrogant smile and stood on his shoulder, chest puffed out, head straight like he was a king standing in front of his subjects. How is this possible? Seeing that her attacks were unable to harm Michael, she also revealed a shocked expression. Afterward, the melody she played changed and she cried out, "Smiting angel, come forth." The smiting angel was one of the relatively more powerful melodies that Layla knew. It used the vina to confuse people, causing their souls to vanish and disperse into the surroundings unknowingly. It was a terrifying melody that killed without any signs and it was impossible to guard against. The gentle vina notes resounded through the surroundings. It seemed to be filled with a certain charm, calming down everything in the world at that very moment. Even the gentle breeze in the area stopped. Michael stood 30 meters away, quietly listening to the melody. He could naturally feel that the vina notes concealed a killing intent, but when he heard it, he did not feel anything. It was as if they could not affect him at all and posed no harm. "That tickles me too, he. The baby dragon laughed out loudly to make her even more furious. The baby dragon enjoyed making her mad. Michael too noticed the sadistic side of this baby dragon and realized that Gaia must be the reason as she is just like that. Very soon, the melody progressed to its halfway point. Seeing how the baby dragon was laughing at her, Layla became shocked and her face became filled with disbelief. The melody stopped. Layla stopped playing the vina, staring blankly at Michael. She struggled to accept this. No, 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 this is impossible. How? Why is my Vina unable to affect you? Layla became rather despaired. Not only did Michael soil her purity, but he was also now immune to her Vina. This prevented her from ever taking revenge. She could not accept this. Layla did not believe it. She began playing again, but no matter what she tried, it was unable to harm Michael and the baby dragon at all. They really did seem to be completely immune to her Vina. Impossible, why can't my Vina hurt you? Layla shook her head. More and more tears welled up in her eyes, before finally rolling down her beautiful face as two streaks of crystal-like tears. She was in misery. It was all your fault, Layla. Who told you to harness the energy you have an idea about? You paid the price for what you did. It's simple as that. He wasn't going to console her or anything, and if he could, he would have killed her for trying to kill him. Since that was not the case, he gave her the peace of his mind. She was shivering in anger and feeling helpless. She wanted to rip them to pieces, yet she couldn't even barely hurt them. Her face started to become redder and redder as tears of fury and misery flowed out of her bloodshot eyes. What happened between him and Layla was definitely not an accident. As he said, it was her own fault for attracting both Yang and Ying from the first energies instead of only Yin energy. Even if she just tried to harness the Ying, she would have ended up dying because her body and soul were not at the level to handle the first energies. The system would have used a special method to harness the energies to come out of the safe mode while strengthening Michael. It was her who acted rashly and put his life in jeopardy. At that time, he had no choice. He needed to survive. Even if he could travel back in time, he would have still done the same thing. Besides, most guys would have chosen to have sex with her using her moment of vulnerability, but he did not. As far as he was concerned, he did no wrong except being a gentleman to her. You bastard, how could you use spirit walking dash? So what would you have wanted me to do? Have sex with you? Would you have acted differently if I did that? He continued to fire question after question at her. As an answer, she got nothing. She just stood there with no words to speak. I did what I had to survive. Be grateful that I didn't take your virginity. This is worse, she replied, gritting her teeth. For me, it's not, and as I said before, this is all your fault. So quit whining and get over it. Looking at her standing there without an answer, he sighed and willed the system to open the interface. He knew that Layla needed to calm down right now, so he did not disturb her. Considering he too cannot hurt her even if he wanted to at the moment, he could only let matters take their course and develop as they would. System version 3.0 Host, Michael Cultivation Level, Core Formation Stage, Level 1 Experience Points, 100,000/400,000 Badass Points, 48,000 Skills and Spells. Wind Blast, LVL2 Responsive Shield, LVL3 Environment Scanning, LVL2 Ignitia, LVL2 Lightning Dash, LVL2 Energy Devour, LVL1 Death Range, LVL2 Techniques, Swords of Destiny, 90% Mastery Occupation, Core Disciple of Sunrise Sect, the Guardian of Sunrise Sect, Lord Lucifer of the Abyssal Status, Healthy Goals, Control the World, Rebuild the Order of Death. Utility Function, Banker, LVL3, Ratio, 1,000 Gold Coins, 10 Badass Points, Wealth, 1,670,000 Gold. Special Trait, 5-star Alchemist Subordinates, Gaia, Loyalty Level 95%, Base of Operation, Sunrise Sect, the Abyssal. Quieting down, Michael immediately checked the conditions of his own body. A wide grin was put on his face when he looked at his stats. Although the trip to the treacherous ocean was extremely dangerous, he had gained a lot. He couldn't wait to see the reaction on the faces of the so-called superstars of the youngest generation such as Victoria and Evan. This was the reason the system always urged him to explore the world, go out adventuring and basically piss off powerful people so he could get stronger as fast as possible. If he had to blame someone for his slow-paced cultivation, it should be him, as he was the one playing it safe. However, playing it safe ends now because he decided to go on an adventure with Gaia after getting out of this place. With the increase in his cultivation level, all of his spells received a power boost, although it was not as much as upgrading the spells to the next level. After closing the stat window, he noticed the small golden box on the corner of his sight bouncing up and down. His face immediately brightened when he saw the box, a legendary gift box. Damn, this day gets keep better and better. Does the host wish to open the gift box? Heck yeah. Chapter 169. The golden box grew bigger and bigger before exploding into golden bits of light, revealing a silver card. Congratulations to the host for receiving the unique trait Inventor. As soon as finished reading the system notification, he felt the familiar sharp pain in his mind. In a blink of an eye, the pain disappeared, leaving new knowledge in his brain. Congratulations to the host for becoming the level 1 inventor. The host can now use the materials found in this world to build basic tools. Michael closed his eyes for a second, studying the new knowledge. He was able to tell that he could now build tools such as batteries, torches, and compasses using the materials found in this world. Although these tools seemed almost useless to him, he did not underestimate the trait. Systems show me how many levels this trait has and what do I get in each level. The inventor trait has 6 star levels. Star 1, the host will be able to build basic tools and day-to-day items. Star 2, the host will be able to build basic gadgets such as night vision goggles, lasers, etc. Star 3, the host will be able to build complex gadgets such as eavesdropping bugs, micro cameras, and trackers, etc. Star 4, the host will be able to build new and antique firearms such as crossbows, mini crossbows, limited shots revolver, cannons, etc. Star 5, the host will be able to build various types of new gadgets and weapons. The host is required to either have a 5-star blacksmith or become a 5-star blacksmith to unlock the Star 6 inventor trait. His eyes sparkled looking at this overpowered trait. He couldn't even imagine how powerful he would become after reaching the 5-STA inventor level. Whoever had a special trait in this world would be more likely to become successful and powerful than those who don't have a trait. For instance, the 5-star alchemy had already made him super OP and saved his life a couple of times, yet alchemy was not a unique trait but the inventor trait was. His smile grew wider in excitement. System, quick, tell me the cost for upgrading the trait. Star 2 requires 10,000 badass points. Do it. Although 10k points was a huge amount, he did not care about the points as he realized the potential of this trait. After he ordered the system, his 48,000 badass points were reduced to 38,000. The very next moment, he experienced a tingling sensation in his brain before the notification box appeared in front of him. Congratulations to the host for becoming the level 2 inventor. The host can now use the materials found in this world to build basic gadgets. How much for the next level? He asked quickly. He knew he probably doesn't have enough badass points to reach the 5-star level, but he wanted to upgrade as much as possible with the current amount of points. 20,000 badass points. You know what to do. The points decreased to 18,000 while the tingling sensation appeared again, and this time, it was slightly more painful than before. Congratulations to the host for becoming the level 3 inventor. The host can now use the materials found in this world to build complex gadgets. Michael closed his eyes again and felt like he could build numerous complex gadgets using the materials found in this world. He had already started to plan a few modifications and new gadgets to his Lucifer armor. Now that he could build gadgets such as eavesdropping bugs and micro cameras, he did not need to buy them from the system. System, how much for the next upgrade? 60,000 badass points. Damn, I have a lot of work to do. Saving his remaining points for an emergency, he closed the system before taking out a slice of meat he bought for the baby dragon from his storage. At the moment, the baby dragon was standing on his shoulder, staring at everything around him curiously, and whenever his gaze fell on Layla, puffs of smoke would come out of his nostrils. Do you want this? Michael showed the juicy red meat to the baby dragon. Yummy. Seeing his favorite food, the baby dragon's eyes sparkled as he lunged at the meat. Slow down, he was too late as the baby dragon had already finished half of the slice in one single bite. While the baby dragon was munching on the meat, he turned his gaze towards Layla. How long do you plan to be like this? After balancing the yin and yang and absorbing the energies, we both should have reaped great benefits. See it for yourself. Currently, Layla had already begun to calm down gradually. Hearing what Michael had said, her expression remained the same. She closed her eyes skeptically, silently sensing any changes in her body. A second later, Layla's eyes abruptly snapped open. They were filled with an unconcealable shock, but very soon, it turned into pain. She gently bit her bottom lip and she seemed down. Her strength had indeed increased, just as he had said. However, compared to the price she had paid, she would have rather not gained this increase. I would have rather died than increasing my cultivation level like that. She didn't hide the misery and anger inside her heart as she yelled at him. Her answer, however, annoyed Michael. Then kill yourself, no one is stopping you. Yeah, go and die, puny human. The baby dragon raised his claws and said disdainfully. It was obvious that the baby dragon did not like Layla and would kill her if he could. The way the both of them acted fanned the flames of her anger, yet she knew she is unable to harm them at all. However, although her heart was burning in anger at him, her mind told her that he used the spirit walking only because he had no choice and avoided taking advantage of the situation to sully her body, which many young men like him would have done in a heartbeat. Michael did not give a shit about her feelings, he did what he had to survive. If it wasn't for the fact she knew the way to the teleportation array and save Christopher, he would have already left her. Seeing that she did not overreact like before, he calmly said, "Let's see if we can find the teleportation array." Layla sat dejectedly on the ground as if she could not hear Michael at all. She gave no reaction. He then slowly took a couple of steps towards her. "The longer we stay here, the longer that old man would suffer." As he said that, Michael paid no more attention to her, turning around and walking off into the distance with the baby dragon. Layla slowly raised her head. She stared at his back, which constantly grew smaller with mixed emotions. Gently biting her lip, she hesitated slightly before she slowly followed Michael in the end. The two of them maintained a distance of 30 meters between them as they traveled, and they eventually arrived at a deep canal of unknown meters. This was where the two huge pillars of light were 3 days ago. Standing at the canal, he did not hurry down. He focused his eyes on the very center of it. He could vaguely feel some extremely obscure ripples of energy, and the ripples were so powerful that it even made him shocked. The system can sense the energy signature of the teleportation array. He sighed in relief, seeing that he's on the correct path. What's down there? I can vaguely sense powerful energy coming from this hole. The baby dragon craned his neck to look into the hole before speaking. Layla also walked up from behind. Despite the wound in her heart, she had already calmed down and her face was once again hidden by a veil. She stood 3 meters away from him at the edge of the canal. At the same time, she looked down into the very depths with her eyes that were still filled with misery. She could obviously feel the extremely obscure but powerful ripples of energy too. After hearing the system and the baby dragon, he looked at the dark hole vigilantly. He then willed the arch energy to fill every corner of his body, strengthening his body to the limit. He no longer paid any attention to Layla and her tantrum. Without even turning back to look at her, he directly leaped into the hole. While falling down, he retrieved the flying sword and hopped on it in the midair. Layla followed closely after he leaped down. She tailed Michael, slowly gliding down toward the bottom too. The two of them arrived at the bottom very quickly. The bottom was flat and had a diameter of 100 meters. 2 balls of powerful light floated quietly at the center. The balls were 2 meters off the ground. One ball seemed to have been made of water, which radiated a bright blue color, while the other seemed to have been made of fire, radiating fiery red color. "The first energy stone," the system exclaimed as he was staring at the 2 balls of energy with interest for a while before he slowly walked over. The baby dragon and Layla also looked at the energy balls, observing them curiously. After he sensed a slight surprise in the system's voice, he wondered whether he could use the balls of energy to further advance in the cultivation. However, as soon as he reached 30 meters from the energy balls, a white figure appeared silently to block Michael's path before the baby dragon and Layla fell unconsciously on the ground. Chapter 170. The sudden white figure frightened Michael greatly. His instincts kicked in as he immediately activated the lightning dash to retreat before grabbing the unconscious baby dragon from the ground. After retreating several meters away from the figure, he stared vigilantly at the figure that had just appeared. Only now did Michael see the figure's appearance clearly. He was a middle-aged man who seemed to be in his late or mid-40s, but the man's calm face still contained the residual handsomeness of his youth. He did not seem like the average man, his distant eyes were filled with calmness as if he had no worries. The man radiated a noble holy aura that would make a commoner kneel down to worship him as a god. However, his body seemed rather ethereal. He did not seem to be corporeal. With the appearance of the man, an indescribable pressure immediately began to permeate the surroundings. At this very moment, the entire world seemed to freeze, even time stopped. He was familiar with this feeling, it was just as whenever he entered the system. Warning. The host is under a telepathic attack. Immediate firewall against telepathic attacks recommended. Does the host wish to upgrade the firewall to level 2? The upgrade will cost the host 8,000 badass points. Do it. He was experiencing a mind-exploding headache as someone was hitting him in the head with a hammer. The pain gradually lessened after he ordered the system to upgrade the firewalls that he previously used against the Silvermoon girl's telepathic attract to level 2. He then sent a jolt of lightning through the baby dragon's body to wake him up. And system scan the place for the teleportation array and notify me when you're ready to teleport me away, grr. What just happened? Whoa, what's that? The baby dragon hissed angrily before being shocked by the ethereal figure floating in front of them. Layla was lying on the ground without moving. Just the pressure from the man was enough to make her lose consciousness. Half immortal. This thought occurred to both Michael and the baby dragon. The man floated 3 meters in the air. He stared fixedly at him and the baby dragon, while a sliver of shock appeared in his eyes, and soon, the surprise turned into a fit of anger. Dark Lord Michael's face immediately became grim hearing the man identify him as Dark Lord somehow. However, Michael did not plan to bluff his way out because he had already sensed this man knew exactly who he was. Knowing that there's no point in acting innocent, Michael willed the system to equip Lucifer's suit of armor because if this old man was looking for the Dark Lord, he should meet the Dark Lord. This time the ethereal figure stared at him speechlessly in a sudden shock, and it was not only him but the baby dragon also looked startled to see Michael in this form. Who am I talking to? He asked the man while slowly walking towards him. The man who hunted down your followers and killed them like they were a bunch of wild dogs even before you appeared in this world. The 5th Supreme Guardian, Andreas MacLeod. Andreas MacLeod was the Supreme Guardian of the Guardian Guild. When the Elon continent was controlled by the Order of Death in ancient times, it was him who emerged at the most crucial moment after all the powerful and influential organizations at that time were controlled by them. He single-handedly killed many powerful members of the Order and led a group of Elder Guardians to eradicate the Order by himself, preventing the Order from reaching out to the rest of the world. This was the reason why the continent had its current peace, because the Order of Death was an evil organization that did countless evil deeds across the continent. A sliver of surprise flashed across Michael's eyes, and the man who tried to kill me ever since I stepped into the treacherous ocean and failed, he sneered without even a hint of fear in his heart. Although the ethereal form in front of him was half immortal, Michael believed that he couldn't harm him because if he could, he would have done it by now. The pressure around Michael increased significantly, but the newly upgraded firewall kept the pressure from reaching both Michael and his pet. But quickly the pressure disappeared from the place as an arrogant smile appeared on Andreas' face. Leave this world while you still can, Dark Lord, you have some nerve, you're nothing but a sliver of left-behind soul, the baby dragon spoke in Michael's stead. The man turned his gaze towards the baby dragon. So it's true, Idros' descendant has a forest dragon as his foe. He then turned his gaze back at Michael. Thousands of years ago, the Guardians eradicated the world of your followers, Dark Lord. They will do it again, and this time, they will end the darkness once and for all. The world is and will be better without you, ha 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 ha. Michael burst into evil laughter after hearing the man. The man seemed to have really believed the fact that the world is in better shape now. Do you really think the world is better now? How long have you been stuck here? Michael questioned the man and continued, and don't even start me on the Guardians, they are now just a bunch of corrupt politicians. This world is not better, this world is sick, and I'm here to cure it, and if your Guardians stood in my way, I will tear them apart. The baby dragon felt the cold murderous aura he's radiating while speaking and realized he was not kidding around. Humph, don't act like you care, all you want is to control and rule this world, strip away everyone free will, make the people in this world your slaves. I don't know anything about stripping away free will or making people my slaves, but controlling and ruling the world is just what I'm going to do. The Guardians can try to stop me. The man just stared at him in silence for a few seconds before replying with a calm smile. Don't be too arrogant, Dark Lord. The Guardians may have turned into what you claim, but there will be Guardians who would gladly give their life fighting you, and my successor is already growing stronger each passing day. Michael took a note in his mind about the next Supreme Guardian. If he could find that one, he would kill him or her and eliminate a huge threat, but he already knew it won't be that simple. And don't even think about killing my successor. I made sure he stays safe from you. Like Andreas read his mind, he spoke with utmost confidence. You already marked his death the moment you put him against me. If he ever tries to stop me from achieving my goals, he will die, and I don't make threats. I make promises. He will have an army in his command, an army that will hunt you down and kill you. Keeping my successor safe was not the only thing I did, Dark Lord. If you ever try to build the Order of Death again, the Guardians will find you. So you're just a one-man against an army. He is not alone, the baby dragon said, roaring at Andreas. See, I've already begun to build an army to fight against the Guardians. Guardians are not the only ones you should be worried about, Dark Lord. Each and every champion of the great clans will unite to fight against you, Idros descendant, and my successor is just one of the. Under the black mask, Michael frowned slightly. He knew he would be eventually fighting against the Guardians, but after seeing the confidence in Andreas' eyes, he was sure that each great clan has its own version of Supreme Guardians and would fight him in the future. However, instead of worrying, he began to feel the excitement rising in his heart because they don't have what he has, the badass system. You just made my life a little easier by telling me all these pieces of information. Before coming here, Guardians was my only target, but now, I will start breaking down all the great clans one brick at a time using any means necessary. After all, in the Dark fucking Lord, the tension between them arose as they both stared at them without uttering a word. Soon afterward, Michael's gaze fell on the two energy balls behind the ethereal figure of Andreas. Looking at his gaze landing the two energy balls, Andreas waved his hand as the two energy balls came floating towards him. Let me guess, you're keeping this for your successor. I can see the energy trace in this place and around the two weird energy balls, the baby dragon spoke, looking around the place. The teleportation array is here and these balls of energy are connected to the array. Michael was surprised to hear the baby dragon speak like this. He had no idea that the baby dragon could really see the world in a different perspective as well as the energy traces better than any other race. The dragons were the masters of energy tracking and manipulation. You didn't show yourself to give me tips and tricks, did you? If I'm right, the moment I activate the teleportation array, the two energy balls would be teleported to your successor, and my successor and his woman will absorb the energy to become stronger. This godly energy will make them invincible, Andreas said arrogantly. He knew the Dark Lord can't touch the godly energy as he made sure of that thousands of years ago. System, can I absorb the energy? The system's current level is too low to absorb the first energy. Hearing the system, he was slightly disappointed. It would have been a great bitch slap to Andreas if he could absorb the energy in front of him. However, the system can sever the connection between the teleportation array and the two energy balls for 3,000 badass points. If I leave them here, anything can happen. System, can you destroy them? If I can't have them, then no one should. Yes, the system can destroy the balls of energy for 5,000 badass points. Chapter 171. The moment he heard the system, an evil grin appeared behind his black mask. Standing from the opposite side, Andreas saw a dark and extremely powerful energy gathering around the Dark Lord's both hands. He creased his brows seeing the dark energy as the Dark Lord spoke. You said that you killed my followers like a bunch of wild dogs and the Guardians will do the same to me. But you forgot one important thing, Andreas. Michael slowly stepped forwards towards the balls of energy hovering in the sky beside Andreas. The closer he got the energy balls, the denser the dark mist around his hands became. When you play with the devil, you'll end up in hell. After these words escaped his mouth, he reached out to grab the floating balls of energy. You dash! Andreas' eyes widened as much as they could, staring at the Dark Lord grabbing the balls of energy. The two balls struggled, vibrating violently under his grasp, but the dark mist quickly surrounded them. As the dark mist surrounded the two energy balls, they started to struggle less and less before finally completely vanishing off into the dark mist. How is it can't be? Andreas stuttered. He never thought the godly energies he spent half of his life searching could be destroyed by the Dark Lord in a couple of seconds. Just as the order of death, the Guardians also had an oracle who warned them about the Dark Lord, but nobody took the badass system into the equation. Soon after Michael destroyed the 2 energy balls, the ethereal form of Andreas began to flicker. "This sliver of soul is dissipating," the baby dragon said, coming out of his shock of seeing Michael destroy the 2 energy balls. Andreas could only stare at the Dark Lord and pray that his successor could defeat the Dark Lord, who seems more powerful than he had imagined. At this moment, he really doubted whether what he left behind was enough to help his successor beat the Dark Lord or not. After what he had just seen, he realized that it was definitely not enough and hoped the gods would help his successor on his path to defeat the darkness. "Thank you for everything you said, old man. It was really helpful." Michael waved his hands, snickering before the ethereal form of Andreas disappeared from his sight completely. On the ground, Layla's body slightly moved as she slowly opened her eyes, regaining consciousness. He quickly unequipped Lucifer's armor and equipped the armor he was wearing before. "Down," he whispered to the dragon, falling on the ground to pretend he too was unconscious. The baby dragon did not ask any questions as he followed Michael's lead. "What just happened?" Layla opened her eyes to see Ghost and the baby dragon slowly waking up. "I don't know," Michael said, gently lifting the baby dragon from the ground. Both of them struggled to stand on their feet. Layla was really struggling while Michael and the baby dragon just pretended to be. He let out a sigh of relief thinking about finally leaving his place, looking toward Layla. "Layla, we should leave." Layla glanced at Michael. She forcefully restrained her voice and did not say anything. Turning around, she silently walked to the place where the 2 balls of energy were before. Standing there, she closed her eyes, chanting a few words under her breath to activate the teleportation array. Soon after she started to murmur, the ground beneath them lightened up, revealing blue complicated engraving. Walking to the center of the glowing formation, Michael looked back at the fog-covered island. He knew that from now onward, he had to work harder than ever before to achieve his goals. The short conversation he had with Andreas really opened his eyes and gave him a new perspective. Everything he said was deeply engraved into his brain, especially what he said about Idros' descendant. Even though he had the badass system, he did not underestimate the foes he would be facing in the future. To fight them, he planned to recruit people with high potential to build an army that would fight for him. He saw what a drop of Idros' blood could do, and if the descendant has half of his ancestors' power, he knew he must increase the baby dragon's power as soon as possible. Roar! Perhaps the disappearance of the 2 energy balls had alarmed the mutated beings roaming around the treacherous ocean, as powerful roars immediately echoed. Large numbers of mutated beings all charged at the 2 from the surroundings. Both of their expressions changed. Although their strength had increased substantially, they could not fight hundreds of unkillable mutated beings. Moreover, there were quite a few fusion-stage mutated beings among the corpses. If they were surrounded, they would not be facing a hard battle but die in a couple of seconds. "Let's leave here quickly." Michael called out to Layla, urging her to activate the teleportation array without lingering any longer in this godforsaken place. Layla did not hesitate either. She immediately drew a few symbols in the air. The very next moment, the engraving on the ground glowed brighter and brighter while the ground began to tremble. In a blink of an eye, a beam of light appeared where they were standing a second before and disappeared along with them. At that moment, in the sky far away from the Rainbow Island, a white light appeared in the empty space without any forewarning. As it disappeared, it revealed the figures of Michael and Layla. The 2 of them finally returned to the world of living from the treacherous ocean. As soon as they emerged from the light, Layla immediately became a blur that flew off into the distance with unbelievable speed. She disappeared in the blink of an eye, leaving Michael behind, who was still floating in the sky on the flying sword with the baby dragon. Looking at the direction in which she disappeared off, Michael remained indifferent. He knew that what happened back in the treacherous ocean had affected Layla greatly, but he did not give a shit about her little feelings. Lightning dash, he just activated the lightning dash, turning himself into a bolt of lightning before flying towards Angel's Peak, where he met with Christopher. After a few hours of flying, he saw 2 figures flying to him from a distance. They were the 2 disciples of Layla, Johann and Nerida. "Ghost, you've finally returned. 3 weeks have passed since your departure with the island mistress." We were worried about her, Johanna said from afar. Her voice was clear and pleasant just like a lark's. And you cured your pet dragon, wonderful, another pleasant voice followed Johanna as Nerida appeared behind Johanna. Pet. The baby dragon growled after hearing Nerida call him a pet dragon. Although the baby dragon never spent any time with his mother or his siblings, he did inherit all the qualities of the proud dragon race. Calling him a pet was an insult to him, yet he was not stupid to show his annoyance in front of two powerful cultivators who could crush him to death in a blink of an eye. What happened back there? Why did the island mistress look different? As if she is a completely different person? Nerida asked. Her face was filled with worry and concern. He, the baby dragon chuckled devilishly, standing on his shoulder. How come? Michael asked curiously. As soon as the mistress returned, she gave us the demon dragon's hearts and entered the back mountain to go into seclusion. She paid no attention to us no matter how many times we tried to talk to her. All these years I studied under her, I have never seen her like this. What happened to her? Johanna's face was filled with the feeling of being wronged. When she reached the end of her words, she immediately became stern and her gaze toward Michael had even become filled with some threat. Michael chuckled. From this trip, your teacher has gained a lot. Since she reached level 5 of the fusion stage, she must have wanted to consolidate her cultivation. I think that's why she went straight into seclusion. You shouldn't worry about her and disturb her, is that so? Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Masters is getting stronger and stronger. At this rate, she would become the youngest half-immortal this world has ever seen. The two of them immediately became excited with what Michael had said. Did she tell how to suppress the curse before she went into seclusion? Michael asked Johanna and Nerida before they could ask more about what happened back there. We knew the method, we just needed a powerful energy source to suppress the curse, and since we have the demon dragon's heart, we can finally help that pitiful person to reach the soul refining stage. As long as he breaks through successfully, the pain he suffers will be greatly reduced, and if the gods desire, he can find a way to permanently lift the curse, Johanna said. Yeah. Because of that curse in his soul from all those years ago, he has been suffering greatly. We did not have the heart to watch on. At least now we can free him from that torture. Alright, let's not talk anymore. Nerida seemed genuinely happy as her smile was rather sincere. Even though Johanna and Nerida were soul-strengthening stage warriors who were just a couple of years of cultivation away from reaching the soul-refining stage, they had always lived on the harmonious Rainbow Islands. Very rarely did they ever leave the island, which allowed a sliver of good and kindness to remain in their hearts. They had not been corrupted by the disputes and deceptions present everywhere in the outside world. This was not to say they were 100% pure-hearted kind people, but they were just less scheming horrible people, unlike the cultivators Michael had met. With Johanna and Nerida accompanying him, they arrived at Christopher's cave. They found him sleeping on a stone bed with a disheveled appearance. Chapter 172. Just like before, the old man was sleeping on a stone, and even though he was sleeping, his body twitched as if he was having a nightmare or he was still suffering the effect of the curse. The two girls stared at him pitifully, seeing his twitching body. In order to decrease his pain, we used the fairy melody to make him sleep. She then turned to Johanna. Johanna, let's wake him up. Yes. Johanna immediately sat down with her legs crossed. She gently caressed the strings of her vina with her elegant hands, producing a piece of gentle soul-soothing music from the vina. Nerida's fingers also touched the strings of her vina, using a unique method to wake Christopher from his slumber. Hearing the melody, even Michael felt his exhausted body feel slightly refreshed, while the baby dragon seemed unaffected by the melody at all. Who is he? The baby dragon whispered into Michael's ear. Sect leader Claire's grandfather. Whoa, isn't he supposed to be dead? The baby dragon asked curiously. Claire's life was not a secret to the baby dragon, who spent enough time with Claire as he would often leave the baby dragon in her care, and she loved to take care of the baby dragon. Although at that time the baby dragon couldn't converse in the human tongue, he understood the language perfectly. Only the baby dragon knew that Claire loved to talk about her feelings and everything she went through with him rather than actual human beings. She was a girl who preferred to keep the sadness in her heart and share the joy with the others, It was the overwhelming sadness buried in her heart about her family that made her pour everything out to the non-talkative baby dragon when she was alone with him. To be honest, the baby dragon sympathized with Claire because he too had no blood relative family. While he was sick, he heard how he was thrown out from the nest by his own mother due to his illness from Gaia. He could still vividly remember how he was chased through the forest by a group of humans who looked at him like a prized possession because of his race, and the moment he met the human who looked at him differently than the others. When the baby dragon met Ghost, the baby dragon saw no ill intention in his eyes as he only saw joy and love. The baby dragon sensed no bad vibrations from him. He may be little, but he knew it was this human who fed him and kept him safe when even his own mother rejected him. The gratefulness and the devotion he has for the human had no bounds. Though he hated to admit it, he knew he loved the Naga, and these two were like his family, despite their differences. Thinking about everything this human went through to save him, the baby dragon hugged his neck as tight as he could and began to shower him with wet kisses. Michael was surprised to see the baby dragon starting to lick him suddenly. "What happened to you?" he chuckled, asking the baby dragon in low voice. "Nothing," the baby dragon said while licking his side of the face. As the baby dragon was licking Michael's face without stopping, Christopher slowly sat up from the stone bed. He said with a croaky voice, "Sigh, how long have I slept this time?" "Here, give this to him." Nerida flicked her wrist, retrieving the small orb of fire that's burning with dark purple flames. Michael gently grabbed the purple fire, and surprisingly, the fire wasn't even warm, but he could feel the pulsing energy within the fire. He then walked to the old man carrying the demon dragon heart in his hand. "Sect leader, just like I told you, I got the demon dragon heart. We can now suppress the curse and help you break through to the soul refining stage." Christopher saw the purple orb of fire in his hand and the little majestic dragon sitting on his shoulder. His old eyes darted between the fire orb and the little dragon. He wasn't sure what's the most shocking thing, the demon dragon heart or the baby dragon on his student's shoulder. Soon afterward, he fixed his gaze on the fire orb and felt a surging excitement in his heart, extending his trembling hand to accept the demon dragon heart. He mumbled frantically, "Demon dragon heart, demon dragon heart. This really is demon dragon heart. The curse in my soul can finally be suppressed. I finally have the chance of becoming a soul refiner. I can soon see my granddaughter." Christopher carefully cupped the demon dragon heart in his hand. With the glistening of tears in his eyes, "Young man, I never thought you'd actually succeed in obtaining the demon dragon heart from the treacherous ocean. It must have been a very dangerous journey, and you have a noble dragon." "Noble dragon. I like this old human," the baby dragon mumbled under his breath as Michael just smiled. "Sect leader, I will tell you everything that happened there on our way to the sect. For now, let's focus on suppressing your curse and reach the soul refining stage. We will then find a way to permanently lift the curse in the future." "Ghost, you cannot stay here when we suppress the curse. Wait outside the cave," Johanna said after taking out a few items such as metal plates, parchments, and a few books. "Yes," Michael nodded at Johanna and stood up to leave the cave. "I'll be waiting for your return, sect leader." He then walked out of the cave, leaving Johanna and Nerida to do whatever they would do to suppress the curse. Outside the cave, Michael sat on a large rock while the baby dragon flapped his wings and flew around him. Michael observed the movements within the cave excitedly. He couldn't wait to bring a soul refining stage cultivator to his sect, which would instantly protect the sect from rogues, thieves, and small sects that would have been a challenge to his sect before. Furthermore, he would not need to buy something from the system to protect his herbal garden. Coupled with the Broad River sect takeover, he was positive that the base of Operation Legend would increase, which could provide him with surprising benefits. These matters aside, when he thought about the snake girl who would be waiting for him, he couldn't help but smile looking at the horizon. While Michael was in the treacherous ocean, the forest was humble, gloomy, and prospering. Its canopy was ruled by birch, ash, and linden, who provided just enough openings for the moonlight to pass down for a mosaic of shrubs to rule the sloping and slanting ground below. Coiling vines suspended from the occasional tree, and a range of flowers, which were seen occasionally, added some color to the otherwise jade scenery. A disharmony of animal sounds, which were caused by rummaging critters, echoed in the air and formed a chaotic orchestra with the occasional roar of a large animal trying to scare away predators. Hidden among the sea of trees, there was a campsite with several large huts, and in the middle of the huts stood a cabin. At the moment inside the cabin, the light coming from the torches reflected on two figures. They were hanging from the ceiling and tied with iron chains. Slowly, the cabin door creaked open to reveal a sturdy man with two bodyguards who stood 7 feet in height. They were neither too thin nor too muscular but had a lean body. The most iconic feature of these bodyguards was their faces. They resembled the wolf, and one did not need a special glass to identify them as the beastmen. "Release me. Do you know who I am?" The one who was hanging from the ceiling ruffled the chains and shouted at the man standing between the two beastmen. "Of course I know who you are, Mr. Jurdy, the infamous cousin of Minister Bobby Jurdy." The man walked out of the shade cast by the two beastmen and showed his face in the torchlight. The man wore a hat with colorful feathers on it and wore an eye patch covering his right eye. From above his left eye to his chin, a long deep scar could be seen. He slowly walked towards the man and ran his fingers through the man's face, and then he moved to the figure hanging next to him. "Get your filthy hands off of her." The man rattled his chains, violently shaking his body. "You have a beautiful wife, Mr. Jurdy. Too bad she's a first-class bitch and a devil reincarnate." The lack of light in the room prevented anyone from completely seeing her face, but the dim light cast on her face did make the two wolves-faced beastmen lick their lips. "I heard she loves to set commoners on fire. Did she recently burn a family of commoners alive because they came to work 5 minutes late?" he said before brushing his hand on her face and the cloth wrapped around her mouth. Don't you dare touch her," Mr. Jurdy shouted as his wife let out a muffled groan. "Release us. I'll pay you. I have gold." Thousands of gold. Mr. Jurdy began to shiver in fear. He thought they would immediately release them after he told them who he is, but seeing they did not give a shit about his identity, he tried to get out of captivity by paying them. "Oh, we don't need gold, Mr. Jurdy. We are in for this for the greater good and for our God." There was a moment of silence after he finished his sentence. He then slowly unsheathed the short dagger hanging from his waist. Lucifer. Chapter 173. The man with the hat was standing in front of Mr. Jurdy and his wife, but this time, they did not even move an inch. Inside the cabin, only a sound of water drops hitting the puddle of water could be heard, except it was not water and water puddle but the blood of Mr. Jurdy and his wife. On the corner of the room, two severed heads were still rolling, and Mr. Jurdy's head still had its eyes opened, overwhelmed with shock and fear. "Captain Quinn." The cabin door creaked open to reveal another wolf-headed man, but he was not as tall or dangerous looking as the two bodyguards behind the man who just killed Mr. Jurdy and his wife. "What is it?" Quinn still had a calm smile on his face regardless of the fact he just beheaded a rich couple of the royal land. One could see no fear in Quinn's eyes, but rather he seemed excited to kill these nobles. "Captain of the reconnaissance team has returned and he's waiting for you in your hut," the wolf-headed guard said, lowering his head as a sign of respect and fear towards Quinn. "Then let's not keep him waiting." Quinn sheathed his dagger, taking a few steps toward the door. "Leave the bodies in the usual place," Quinn said to the newly arrived wolf-headed guard before leaving the cabin. Just before the events of Mr. Jurdy and his wife's killings, somewhere else in the Elan continent, a majestic manor made of gray stone stood between rocky mountains and a sea of trees. There were no movements or living beings around the manor. One would expect workers to work around and in the manor, but there was no one except a few figures descending from the sky into the manor through the open roof. After a while these figures entered the manor. They walked into a spacious hall where a large round table was located. 6 fancy chairs made of fine wood and soft cushions situated around the table at an equal distance from each other. Soon, one by one 4 of the figures who just entered the room sat on the chairs. Just after all the 4 figures took their seats, 2 more figures entered the hall. Senior Guardian Peyton, Senior Guardian Zanali. The 4 of them immediately recognized the 2 girls entering the room. When they were about to stand up to show their respects, Peyton just waved her hands wordlessly, telling them not to bother. "Each one of you is here because you were cherry-picked by me and my junior sister Zanali to be a part of an important mission. This mission will be the first step of something greater." While Peyton was talking, Zanali flicked her wrist as a whiteboard with numerous portraits of people appeared beside Peyton. "Now before we go over to this," Peyton pointed her finger at the whiteboard and continued, "let's be clear of something. This mission is totally off the grid. Only me, my junior sister, and the Guardian Captain Gerard know of this mission we are about to start. However, if any of you decides to open your mouths about what you're going to hear in this room, you'll be treated as a traitor of the Guardians, and you and anyone you are close to will be either killed or exiled from Elon continent. If you want to leave, this is your chance." Peyton glanced over to the 4 humans sitting around the table. 3 of them were male, and the last was a female. They all wore identical white cloaks to cover their faces as they were instructed by Peyton. Peyton nodded as she was expecting that they won't leave the hall. She then turned her gaze towards the whiteboard and snapped her fingers as the whiteboard became brighter, revealing all the portraits of the people and a portrait with a big question mark drawn on it. "People, welcome to Operation New Dawn." On the whiteboard, the portraits became clearer, and if Michael was here he would have definitely recognized 3 of the portraits among them, as 3 of the portraits had the faces of Gaia, her real face, Victor who is a rogue cultivator, and himself. New Dawn is a mission to take care of the potential threats to the Guardians even before they could become a potential threat. Currently, there are 17 threats on the boards. Each of you will take 4. As the first step of your mission, you will keep your targets under your surveillance 24/7. You will get the spells, runes, and everything you need to accomplish this task. If your targets didn't do anything suspicious or commit a crime, let them be and continue the surveillance. But if they did something, anything like breaking a law set by the king of the place they were at, or fraternize with people marked as criminals by the Guardians, or even kill a bunch of useless commoners, you have the permission to make them disappear forever. A slight murderous aura emerged in her beautiful eyes. With the exception of one, Zanali spoke in a gentle manner, pointing her finger at Gaia's portrait. "Her name is Gaia, the most wanted criminal of Nagaland. She had killed 260 prisoners, bribed king's men, attempted to murder her own family, and committed many other sins over these past years. She was crippled by the authorities of Nagaland, but unfortunately, she has escaped Nagaland and is now considered to be the most wanted criminal. Although she is crippled, she's extremely resourceful and dangerous. She is my target, but if any of you see her or hear something about her, you need to contact me ASAP. Her file will be given to you after this meeting." After Gaia, Peyton described every individual on their list including Victor, and finally came to the portrait of Ghost. She wrote the name Ghost in elegant handwriting. "Ghost?" "The 5-star alchemist," the white-cloaked girl asked Peyton, and after her question, the remaining 3 could quickly recognize him as they too heard about him, but this was the first time they were seeing his face, at least a drawing of his face. "Senior Guardian, pardon my ignorance, but why is he here?" "He's just a body-strengthening cultivator in a declined sect." Following the girl, another white-cloaked figure raised a question. "Yes, he's just at the body-strengthening stage, but you should know, he was at the body-refining stage a month before." The girl and the man who asked the question stared at Ghost's portrait with their mouths slightly opened. Until now they only thought of him as a 5-star alchemist and did not know about his heaven-defying cultivation speed. Now they realized why he is on the potential threat list, because they knew if he continued to grow stronger at his rate, he would be half immortal or even immortal in a couple of decades. At that time, it would be near impossible to neutralize him unless the Guardians used the power of the entire guild. Whoever gets him as the target must treat this very seriously. He is extremely resourceful, cold, cunning, and dangerous. Among all of them, he's the second most mysterious. We basically knew nothing about him except his name. By rejecting our offer of joining the Guardian Guild, he already showed us that he did not like to play by the rules, and people like him who don't like to play by our rules must be neutralized, Zanali said with a hint of killing intent in her voice. "Then why don't we just kill him?" the girl in white cloak asked Peyton and Zanali. "We can, but we need a reason to kill him. That's why we are here. Although we have permission from the Guardian Captain to neutralize any potential threats, we cannot go killing people without a valid reason. Besides, we are dealing with a person who we know nothing about. Don't mess with a mysterious person until you gather all the crucial information about them. This is what the Operation New Dawn all about. Stalk and neutralize." The white-cloaked girl licked her lips looking at Ghost's picture. She wanted him to be her target. It was not only the girl, but the remaining 3 also looked excited. Peyton and Zanali looked at their excited expressions, feeling proud of their decision to choose these 4 over numerous candidates. These 4 were the most power-hungry, goal-focused, with an unquenchable thirst to prove themselves. Furthermore, these 4 proved themselves that they will get the results no matter what, and they would go to any lengths to finish their missions. These were the qualities Peyton and Zanali wanted from their underlings in this operation. Just as Peyton said before, this operation was off the grid, and that meant the higher echelon of the guild won't support or provide any kind of assistance for them, and also, Peyton and her whole group will be punished for conducting this unsanctioned operation. The Operation New Dawn was Peyton's idea. It was meant to be a feather in her cap that would catapult her career and status within the guild if it proved to be successful. What about that one, Senior Guardian Peyton? They all asked, pointing at the big question mark on the whiteboard as Peyton and Zanala's face turned serious. The 17th target is the most dangerous and mysterious one among them all. Peyton turned back to the whiteboard and slowly wrote a name under the question mark. Lucifer. Chapter 174. A few hours after they started the meeting, Peyton and Zanali sent the 4 of them on their way, giving them 4 files that contained the information of each of their targets. Standing in front of the whiteboard, Zanali stared at her big stepsister's portrait. Her eyes contained a tinge of hatred but also a slight sorrow. Zanali, don't you have somewhere else to be right now? Peyton noticed her junior staring at her sister's portrait and asked. She knew the history between Zanali and Gaia, so she could understand Zanala's feelings. Peyton also knew that although Zanali hated her stepsister for everything Gaia did, she still had a soft spot for her in her heart. After all, she was her sister. Yes, I have to go pick up the bodies in the usual place. Zanali retraced her gaze away from Gaia and looked at Peyton. Make sure no one follows you, especially the holy guards. We need to cleanse the kingdoms using Lucifer's name, but we need to do that without leaving any trace that could lead back to Guardians, said Peyton. Senior, do you really think the real Lucifer will take the bait and try to send a message by killing a noble himself? Impositive. People like him have an ego. If his sole purpose was to kill evil as he claims, he wouldn't have presented his victims in a gruesome manner. He wants the people to see his handiwork, and since we are hijacking his thunder, he would definitely come out of his hiding, and when he does, it either us or the holy guards who would put an end to him. Peyton looked so confident as Zanali really believed that her prediction about Lucifer would be true. However, Zanali still had some lingering doubts and hesitation about Peyton's plan of killing the nobles and using them as the bait to catch Lucifer while getting rid of nobles who had prior criminal records. Just by staring at Zanala's eyes, Peyton could tell she's still not 100% on board on her plans. Sometimes, even the good guys gotta do bad things to make the bad guys pay. Do you understand me, Zanali? I do, Senior. It's just that I quite don't like that human Quinn. Peyton chuckled, patting her junior on the back. You don't have to like the tool to get the job done. After we get what we want, well, just get rid of him too. After all, he's one of the wanted criminals of royal land. Peyton's beautiful smiling face quickly turned cold and murderous. Seeing her transformation, even Zanali felt freaked out. Senior, I still think that we should have brought Noah and Alicia into this operation. Peyton just waved her hands, showing her disagreement. No, Noah is not the material to work outside the moral codes. He would ask too many questions. We needed people who would do what we say without asking a question. Noah and Alicia are not those people. Besides, you'll be emotionally compromised if I bring Noah to New Dawn. The sudden statement startled Zanali before a slight shade of redness emerged on her face. Peyton chuckled again. You like him, don't you? Senior. Zanali stomped the ground, her face completely turned red. What? Do what you want, but just don't act too quickly. Your people still have resentment towards humans. Zanali nodded after hearing Peyton. The Nagas had resentment towards almost all the races because they thought they were better than everyone else. After the disappearance of the dragon clan along with thousands of dragons, the Nagas' power increased significantly, and under Gaia's mother's rule, Nagaland entered into a golden age where they dominated all the races and reigned supremacy. Unfortunately, the Nagas' supremacy started to decline after Gaia's father took the throne and married Zanali's mother. Zanali always believed that Gaia's mother's way of doing this was wrong and lawless, but here she's doing exactly what she initially hated Gaia for. 3 years before Michael's arrival to this world, under the scorching hot sun and above the burning hot sand, a large group of warriors wearing only a simple leather cloth to cover their genitals. Some of the warriors had toned bodies with cut muscles, while the others looked like professional bodybuilders with their beastie muscles. Other than the similarity of no fat in their bodies, they all had cuts and bruises over their bodies, which they viewed as their prized possessions. Among these warriors, two men stood out with their golden hair and handsome faces, and once could not tell them apart because of their identical faces. Titus, Optimus. The twins dropped their short swords to the ground and walked out from the other warriors when they heard their doctoress, who trained them to be the best gladiators in the entire Myral kingdom. The man who called them doctoress was a tall black man with no hair on his head. He had a lean body and a whip was hanging from his waist. Dominus is calling for you. Titus and Optimus' faces brightened immediately. They were gladiators of the Ludus Gallio for 5 years, and their time has finally come to be the freemen. They did not become gladiators by choice, but when General Quintus of Myral Kingdom invaded their homeland Wuxia, they were captured along with hundreds of citizens and soldiers of Wuxia. Titus and Optimus were one of the soldiers who got captured by General Quintus and sold as slaves in the slave market of Myral. Because they were soldiers and good at close combat, a nobleman called Gallio Tuccius bought the two of them and put them into the training to be the warriors who fight to the death for the entertainment of Southerners, the gladiators. Usually, a gladiator had no chance to become a freeman until he drew his last breath, but fortunately, Gallio offered all the gladiators in his ludus the chance to become a freeman. All they needed is to win a certain amount of battles in the arena and they would be freed from slavery afterward. Gallio set the number of battles to 50 and the twins had won 49 battles. After getting their freedom back, the twins planned to go to Myrid, the nearby kingdom of Myral, and search for their sister. When they were losing the war to General Quintus, the twins sent their sister to Myrid so she could escape slavery. It had been 2 years since they saw their only family, Arya. It was the thought of reuniting with their sister that kept them fighting for 2 years. Now they had one more battle before they could finally on their way to search for their sister. One more win, twins, Doctoress said with a thick accent as a small proud smile appeared on the black man's face. He was teaching the gladiators of Ludus Gallio for 25 years and these twins were the best he had ever trained. He felt proud and truly happy for them. He saw Ludus Gallio has been offering the same offer to all the gladiators in his Ludus, but no one has come closer to 50 victories, not even close. The twins were the first to come this closer and he was confident they would win the next battle. Even Doctorus could only win 27 battles before he lost to a gladiator from another Ludus. In the battle between gladiators at the arena, a gladiator could either die or surrender, which is considered being a shame and would result in back to slavery. Therefore, a gladiator would rather choose death over slavery. Doctorus did not surrender but had a dagger sent through his chest by his opponent and deemed dead. However, he survived miraculously. Ever since that battle, Doctorus never stepped onto the arena but thrown himself into the role of Doctorus. Since he had no family or desire to be a freeman, he was happy being a teacher to the gladiators. The southern continent was also known as the Aur continent, and this continent resembled the ancient Rome of Earth. Everything the Romans did in Rome, the southerners were doing the exact same things and more on Aur. However, although this world had energies like Arch and Celestial that enabled the people to cultivate, the southerners were unable to cultivate. Anyone who stepped into the Aur continent would immediately lose their ability to use Arch or Celestial energy no matter their cultivation level. Even an immortal would turn into a mortal in Aur. This was the reason that anyone who was born in Aur seldom travels to the other continents or vice versa. Only a few merchants used to travel to Aur from the other continents. Since the cultivators couldn't use energy in Aur, they avoided Aur at all costs because no matter how powerful they were outside, they would become completely powerless in Aur. Even though the southerners could not use energy, they were not powerless as one would expect. On contrary, the southerners had the technology, education, and wealth to match up the lack of energy use. Besides, just like back in ancient Rome, they had Spartans, gladiators, and a few other super soldier units to fight any enemy. This strange phenomenon of Aur protected the southerners from the attacks of cultivators and the remaining continents from being attacked by the southerners. The southerners thought of this as a blessing and their god's will. The void of energy in Aur made even the senators and great generals not form a countermeasure to deal with the cultivators. And they had no idea that this lack of planning was going to change their world forever. Chapter 175, 2 years before Michael's appearance and 1 year after Titus and Optimus' 49th battle, the news of someone poisoned the 2 elders of House Armfield and House Randall spread through the entire kingdom of Drattle like a wildfire. News of the 2 elders' death quickly made its way to the head of the house, Nickmon. When he heard this news, he was stunned. But how? How is this possible? The two elders were core formation warriors. How did they get killed? The head of the Nikmon family muttered in dismay. It was very hard for him to believe this recent bit of information, and his heart was still finding it very shocking even now. Just as he was in deep thoughts, a young girl wearing gray servant clothes walked into the room with a look of discomfort on her face. The girl was young and looked to be 15 or 16 years old. She had shoulder-length hair as well as tan skin. Slowly making her way into the room, she placed the teapot on the table before the man. "Master, I've just heard that the elders of Armfield and Randall were killed. Is that true?" After a few moments of staring at the man meekly, the girl asked. "I'm not sure, they were all core formation warriors." "Men. Go out and investigate the truth behind this matter and report back to me." The head of the Nikmon family shouted the order. "Yes, my lord. We will go make the inquiries straight away." The guards stationed in the room immediately ran off to verify the reports. It did not take long for the man to come back to give his report. With a frightened face, he said, "My lord, the news is true. The elder of House Armfield and the elder of House Randall have been poisoned. Their personal guards were too poisoned. Currently, House Armfield and House Randall is investigating the killings." Thunderstruck by this disastrous turn of events, the head of the Nikmon family had originally taken the news to be a rumor and didn't believe it. Now hearing the news from the mouth of his subordinate left him with no other choice but to believe it. Despite it being hard to stomach, he simply couldn't deny it any longer. "Did you personally see the corpses of the two elders?" Lord Nickman's hands clasped tightly onto the soldier's shoulders as if trying to choke out the truth. "Why, yes, my lord. It is absolutely true. We saw the bodies with our own eyes. They were green and dead," the soldier spoke in alarm. Now that two influential people of East Draddle were poisoned by someone, the soldier didn't know what to think. They knew how hard it is to even get near the house compound, let alone kill the elders in their own rooms. The Nikmon family head then waved his hand at the two guards, wordlessly telling them to leave the room. Dazed, the lord broke away from the soldier with an absent-minded look. His Nikmon family was indeed a power within the East Draddle, but there were still plenty of other parties and mercenary groups that were stronger than him. Usually, if elders of rival families get themselves killed, he would laugh in pleasure, but now he couldn't because, before their deaths, he was working with them secretly to bring an ancient artifact that could make the Nikmon family's power skyrocket. Now that the elders were killed, finding the artifact had become harder than ever before. His dreams of rising exponentially in power and status had been dashed, turning into nothing in a single stroke. In other words, the fall of the two elders had meant the chance of the Nikmon family becoming the most powerful significantly fell. When the girl heard the guards, a cold smile appeared on her face. She hated the nobles as much as she hated General Quintus for invading their homeland. As far as she was concerned, the world is better off without these nobles on it. At first, she thought the nobles of outside continents would be different from the southerners, but after being brought to Elon continent by a slave merchant, she realized these cultivating nobles were just as bad as the southern nobles or even worse. Her childhood friend was killed with a single spell for just bumping into a noble 2 years ago. She could still hear her friend scream in agony before turning into nothing but ashes. That noble was none other than the man sitting in front of her. She wanted to burn him, just like he did to her friend. And after killing him, she hoped to grow stronger and save her brothers. If it was 2 years ago, she wouldn't even have thought of saving her brothers as she was just a helpless girl then, but now, she was learning under a Grim Reaper captain. The drastic turn of events had been a huge blow to the development of the Nikmon family, giving the man a tremendous headache. Letting out a heavy sigh, the man walked to his desk. "Girl, fetch me a cup of tea." "Yes, master." The young girl replied before moving to prepare a cup of tea for her master. Then standing behind him, she began to dutifully give him a massage as the man expected from a slave like her. Bringing the cup up to his lips, the lord of the Nikmon family had only just taken a sip from his cup of tea when the young girl began to suddenly radiate murderous intent. A delicate-looking dagger slid into her hand before she ruthlessly stabbed it into the back of him. TSK. Under the unflinching hand of the girl, the dagger buried itself so deeply within the man that not even the blade could be seen. The man let out a pained cry as the cup of tea in his hand fell to the table. He was a man at the core strengthening stage 3 and possessed a quick reflection, but the girl's sudden attempt to take his life caught him off guard. He immediately rose from his chair and backhanded the girl away. She flew across the room before slamming into the wall on the opposite side, but the damage had been done. With a mouthful of blood, the man knew that he had been seriously injured. Pulling out the glowing dagger that had been embedded in his back, the man looked at his slave in disbelief. Bloody bitch. How dare you try to kill your master? Staggering back up, the girl's eyes were flowing with tears as she stared hatefully at the head of the Nickmon family. Clenching her teeth, she angrily replied, You burned my friend alive. I will take revenge for her. Startled, the man threw down the dagger in his hand in outrage. Fucking bitch. Have you gone mad? What in the world are you talking about? By now, the girl had lost all pretense of being the obedient slave she had been pretending to be. Letting out an angry shout, she said, 2 years ago, at the Wheeleg market, you burned a young girl like me alive because she bumped onto you. Ever since that day, I wanted to kill you, burn you alive. A drastic change had overcome the man's face now as he stared gravely at his slave. Soon, his serious expression turned somewhat calm. A cold smile appeared on his face. I didn't think killing a lowly slave would get me stabbed in the neck. I've clearly underestimated you, especially if you were able to carry on for 2 years with such vengeance in your heart without my detection. That in itself is worthy of being called the slave of Nickmon. Although this enchanted dagger could pierce my skin, it's not enough to kill me. Besides, you're not even a cultivator. What other means do you have to kill me? You underestimate me too much. There's no way ID believes so naively that I could kill you with a single knife. I put some poison in your tea that you just drank. The poison is a dangerous one that will burn your organs within. Nickmon, you cannot escape death today. The girl let out a cold laugh as she spat out her hatred for him. What? You've poisoned my tea? The head of the Nickmon family cried out with terror. Throwing himself at the girl, he roared, hand over the antidote at once. She had been prepared for such an action and training to run for 2 years. The moment he had charged at her, she ran for the door, quickly disappearing from sight. He had not given chase and instead stared venomously in the direction she had disappeared. Angrily, he said, Where did this bitch get this enchanted dagger and such colorless, odorless poison? Asking himself the questions, he hurriedly took out a bottle filled with pills from his space ring. He then swallowed the pills to alleviate the poison or at least half its current progress in his body. After swallowing the pills, the head of the Nickmon family stalked out of his room. Calling forth for his men, he and the 100 others immediately left the household right away. Leaving with haste from the Nickmon family compound through the hidden path, the young girl went to the dark alleyway where she was instructed to go. Her body was in a weaker state than before since she had been struck by the head of the family. She had received no major injuries, but she was not a cultivator yet. Her body was not accustomed to taking such a blow, thus, it heavily impacted her condition, causing her face to pale. Did you get the job done? When she reached the dark alleyway, a voice appeared from behind. She quickly turned behind to see her mentor standing in front of her with a calm smile on his face. Chapter 176. The sunrise mountains rose in snow-white brilliance, giving a silent invitation for the soul to accept its beauty. Upon the glimmer of sleeping sun on the horizon, the forest was so snowy white. The white blanket of snow rested upon the trees, boulders, and the ground as if it were a feather cushion, soft and warm. It covered the ocean of trees in perfect white, revealing the ingrained beauty of winter. The snowflake took her dance in the wintry air, pure water made all the more beautiful by her crystalline form. The rain of snowflakes looked like they came to earth from heaven itself, blessing the living beings on the ground. Amidst the rain of snowflakes, 2 figures flying towards a snow-covered building in the distance. One of the figures looked exactly opposite to the white rain, Michael. It's beautiful. Michael reached his hand out to catch the snowflakes like a little kid while flying towards the sect with Christopher, who now looked vigorous and less emaciated because of his cultivation level. His grayish patches of hair grew denser and black as his body slowly turned into look like 50-year-old Sylvester Stallone. Whoosh! A small swirling stream of fire brushed past Michael as he turned to see the baby dragon soaring through the sky, melting the mighty snowflakes with his dragon breath. "Save your breath, Dickie," Michael chuckled, expecting a funny reaction from the baby dragon, and as he expected, the baby dragon lunged at him, biting his head like a cute little puppy. "Don't call me that." While the baby dragon was exacting revenge for calling him Dickie, Christopher started to slow down. "Sect leader, are you okay?" He noticed that the closer they got to the sect, the slower Christopher flew. It has been 15 years, Christopher stopped flying as he looked at the building in the distance. Unlike Michael, who was excited to return, Christopher's heart and mind fought with each other to accept the new reality. 15 years ago, he left the sect with his son on a journey to search for a way to break the curse. At that time, he was afraid that the curse might transfer to Claire. He knew Claire would either accompany them or won't let them go. That was why they decided to leave without telling her the truth. "What do I tell her about her father?" Christopher looked at Michael as he was really expecting an answer from Michael. Michael sighed in his mind. Usually, he would try to avoid sticking his nose into others' business, but anything related to the sect was his business because it would directly affect the sect's legend and the number of badass points he would get. Before hearing Christopher's story, he had a soft spot for the elves, not because the female elves looked gorgeous, but in the books he read and the games he played, the elves were portrayed as an oppressed race. For instance, many novels he read had the elves enslaved by humans. After transmigrating to this world, he couldn't completely put aside these books as just fictional books, considering he transmigrated to this world with the system. However, in this world, elves were not enslaved or oppressed. On the contrary, each race had its own kingdoms and empires. Slavery was considered unlawful and punishable by death in few kingdoms, and although slavery was not completely got ridden, it was also not as bad as some books described, at least, not in Elon continent. "Tell her the truth, sect leader, she deserves it." Christopher took a long breath before nodding. Both of them then picked up speed, soaring through the snowflakes towards the sect. At the same time, in the Sunrise sect, a group of children led by Cindy and a group of disciples led by Jack was running around the building, taking cover and hiding from an unknown danger. "Take it, suckers!" a voice echoed through the area. In seconds of the warning, the air was thick with snowballs so compacted that several feet solid and icy. "Not again," said Jack, looking at the snowball flying towards his face in slow motion. The very next moment, the snowballs made of freshly fallen snowflakes burst open on the impact with his face, showering crystalline fragments that glint in the wintry light. "Take cover," little Cindy shouted at her little army before frantically running behind the stack of bricks and making a stockpile with her little hands to retaliate with. From the lull in the action, she knew Sister Elia is doing the same to replenish what she already used. "Today we White Walkers are gonna win, Sister Elia," Cindy taunted from behind the stack of bricks. "Today will be no different than yesterday, little girl," came the calm voice of Gaia. "Get ready to get your little butts kicked." Plop. 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 Just after the voice disappeared, Cindy and the kids were hit by balls of ice with no mercy from above. "Run!" Cindy frantically crawled away to avoid the balls of snow while Gaia stood atop the building roof and kept hitting the little children with deadly accuracy. "Come on, attack her while she's distracted with them." Jack had enough of getting attacked mercilessly by Elia. He started this snow fight to exact revenge on her for constantly bashing him, but ever since the snow fight started, it was him and the little kids who got their butts kicked by Elia. It didn't go as he planned, not at all. Furthermore, each passing day, Elia was stepping up her game as it had become nearly impossible to hit her. Until now, only Claire managed to land a couple of hits, and after that, she was buried in snow by Elia. "Hey Jackie, are you trying to sneak up on me?" Jack's neck hair stood straight up hearing Gaia's voice. He slowly turned up to see her wickedly smiling at him with watermelon-sized snowballs in each hand. At that moment, Jack knew he had no chance to escape but to take the snowball like a man. "Attack!" he dash, plop. Before he could even order his buddies to attack her, he received yet another snowball to his face. This time the force was so great that Jack stumbled back into the pile of snow on the ground. Run, realizing they have no chance of retaliating against her speed of attack. The disciples chose to strategically run away rather than stand there and get hit by the snowballs. Fear me bitches, as I am the queen of snowball fight. Her laughter of triumph echoed through the mountains. Plop. Just as she was evil laughing stood atop the roof, a huge snowball soared through from the sky and blasted her down to the ground. Who the fuck hit me in the back? She was enraged to lose her winning streak. Plus she was stunned at the attack speed, she did not even sense the attack coming. She quickly picked herself from the ground and stared in the direction of the snowball that just hit her down. In the sky, she saw another snowball flying towards her. No you don't, she quickly dodged out the snowball's way before it hit the ground where she was a second ago. Attack! Cindy and her minions returned to the spot after seeing Gaia fall down, and Jack too gathered his group to utilize the moment. However, they didn't expect the rain of snowflakes would become the rain of snowballs, as countless snowballs rained on them, hitting their bodies. Show yourself, damn it! Gaia yelled while evading the snowballs, but still many snowballs hit her right in the face. You should play with some in your size. A wide grin emerged on Gaia's face when she heard the voice. She turned her head in the voice's direction to see Michael descending from the sky. Brother Ghost. Senior Brother Ghost. Senior. Brother Ghost is back. Cindy, the little kids, and all the disciples who saw Michael came running to him as he landed on the ground with Christopher. For a few moments, none seemed to notice the old man. Just as they were running to Michael, the baby dragon descended on Michael's shoulder, gracefully flapping his wings. Ghost, Gaia approached, locking her eyes with Michael and the baby dragon. The baby dragon stared at her with love before quickly changing his gaze to a slight enmity. What took you so long? She locked Michael with a long warm hug, ignoring the old man standing beside him and staring at everything in wonder. Nothing big, just a few mutated beings and life-threatening dangers in the treacherous ocean. What? Her embrace tightened the moment she heard the name treacherous ocean. I'll tell you everything later. Michael gently pushed her away to look at Christopher. Sect leader, you should go meet sect leader Claire alone. Sect leader? The disciples wondered as they all looked at the old man before their eyes widened in utter shock. Their bodies felt weak, and even Gaia took a step back further away from the old man in disbelief. Soul refiner. While they were staring at Christopher speechlessly, Michael turned towards Jack. Jack, show him sect leader Claire's house. It took Jack several seconds to come out of the shock of seeing a soul refiner with his own eyes. Yes, yes. Sect leader Claire, yes. Got it. Jack stuttered. Christopher took a deep breath before slowly following Jack towards Claire's house to meet his granddaughter after 15 years. They all, including Michael and Gaia, stared at Christopher in silence. After his figure disappeared, Gaia turned her gaze towards the baby dragon and started an intense staring contest with the scaly creature. Dicky, shitface, the baby dragon replied and shocked everyone around them. The baby dragon can talk. Oh my god. While the female disciples were staring at the baby dragon with sparkling eyes, only Jack's group realized the danger the baby dragon in. She's going to turn that noble dragon into a foul-mouthed bastard, brother. Just after Jack and Christopher left the place, Michael heard Cindy's voice as he looked down with a smile to see the little girl throwing herself at him. Chapter 177. Under a large snow-covered tree, Michael was looking at the river town on the horizon. On his shoulder sat the baby dragon, only he did not stare at the river town but stared at Gaia, who was standing behind Michael, tensed. Her body was slightly shivering in a mix of both anger and shock. Michael told her everything that happened after he left her at Royal Land, except the things that the system did. She seemed stunned hearing the events that happened in the treacherous ocean until she heard about the part where he spirit walked with Layla. When Gaia heard that, she had pretty complicated feelings arise inside her: jealousy, anger, a regret of not accompanying him into the treacherous ocean, and murdering intent towards Layla. Her emotions and reactions did not surprise Michael, as he was expecting this. He knew that any girl who is in love would feel exactly like her when another girl comes into the picture. Although Gaia never expressed her feelings for him, he knew she loved him. He was not oblivious to that fact, but only waiting for her to tell him that she loves him. It was one of the reasons that Michael chose not to have sex with Layla, because he wanted to be faithful to one girl, Gaia. However, if what happened between him and Layla made Gaia lose interest in him, he would not force her and hope to find his better half in the future. Did you know about spirit walking? After remaining silent and pondering about the events, Gaia asked. Only from the memories of Abras, he said, turning his head to look her in the eyes. Surprisingly, there was no anger in her eyes. Did you have any kind of feelings for that bitch? If I had, I would have chosen the other method to neutralize the energies. Michael did not even take a moment to think about her question as he answered truthfully. Good, she said, walking towards him. When she got closer to him, closer to the point his warm breath brushed past her face, she looked him in the eyes before wrapping her hands around his neck to pull him closer to lock her lips with his. In her kiss were the promise of years and the sweetness of waiting for real love. The kiss was not at all the same as in the movies, but one steeped in a passion that ignites. It was the promise of realness, of the primal desire that lives in us all. And with it, she told him that she is awake, connected within, that she embraces himself rather than hide as a copy of those romantic idols. There was something so heavenly about the kiss in the rain of snow, a tender moment that just wouldn't wait. It was that burst of love that is expressed, not caring if the snowflakes soak through to chill the skin. The kiss was a connection that shows the strength of the feeling, the mutual need. Nature could bring the rain of snow, but their inner sunshine warmed them from within. A few seconds after, Michael pulled her closer, slightly lifting her from the ground to show his appreciation of her. In that moment of the kiss, their chemistry became an ever-bright flame. In that kiss was the sweetness of passion, a million loving thoughts condensed into a moment. Drops of happy tears flowed down from the corners of the baby dragon's eyes as he embraced the both of them with his stubby wings and placed his little head on their faces. Their kiss lasted longer until they both ran out of air in their lungs. You are mine, her voice contained the right amount of love and killing intent to warn him that he can't run around seducing girls anymore. And you are mine, he said gently, giving a peck on her flushed red cheek. You both are mine. The baby dragon broke the romantic moment with his protest and made the both of them chuckle at the same time. They looked at the baby dragon before they gave a soft kiss on each cheek. The baby dragon curled up against their chest like a baby, smiling and feeling the warmth of family that he never felt with his own dragon family. Michael put his arm around Gaia's shoulder, gazing at the distance and savoring this moment in silence. Congratulations. Subordinate Gaia has reached 100% loyalty. Congratulations to the host for unlocking mentor function level 2. The host can now boost your chosen subordinate's cultivation speed by 40%. The smile on his face grew wider hearing the notification in his mind, but he did not immediately enter the system but stood with his better half etching this moment into his brain, because not everything was about power, as little things like this made life worth living. Mother, are you looking at me from heaven? Gaia thought as she looked at the sky. Tears strolled out of her eyes. She had only a few memories of her mother. She remembers her mother would say that there is only one happiness in life: to love and be loved. After her mother died, she never loved or was loved by anyone. Even her father paid little to no attention to her because at first, he had to rule the kingdom, and then, he married another Salisi and had Zanali together. A few weeks after he met Gaia, even without him knowing, he started to care for her as Abra's soul brought back the real Michael beneath the cold, uncaring shield that he erupted to protect himself from getting hurt again after what happened to the orphanage he cared for. His caring for her changed Gaia from within and made her feel what it's like to be cared for and loved. With him, she felt the protection of a father and the love of a mother, and the affection of a playful sibling. Looking at the tears on her face, the baby dragon moved his claws to gently wipe off them. Cry baby, he giggled after wiping off her tears. Jerk, she flicked him on the head as a return to his snarky comment before turning her gaze at Michael. When will you marry me? She boldly asked. After I dethrone your father and make you the queen of Nagaland, he said. It was not an excuse to delay marrying her but a promise he made to himself a moment ago. He wanted to give what she always desired, the throne of Nagaland. From now onwards, she would be his better half, his soul mate, his queen, and he would give anything that his queen desires, and he knew she would do the same to him. Then you will only get kisses from me, nothing more. She stomped the ground. She expected him to marry her today itself, but seeing the love in his promise, her heart felt warmth. "Oh," she pulled her closer, "it's more than enough," he said before savoring her lips one more time. After leaving the place where they started the journey as each other's soul mate, they returned to Michael's home in the sect. With hot tea made by Raylene in their hands, they were laying on the sofa with the baby dragon in the middle of them. "So did you find out who was running around pretending to be Lucifer?" "About that, I have good news and bad news. The good news is all of the fake Lucifer's victims were sick noble sons of bitches that we would have eventually killed. The bad news is I think it's the Guardians who are pretending to be Lucifer to catch the real Lucifer, us." "Oh, how come?" Michael was surprised a bit by Gaia. If what she said was true, then it would show him that the Guardians would play dirty to catch him. Because of this, she flicked her wrist as a portrait of a man wearing an eye patch and a hat with feathers appeared in her hand. "He goes by the name Quinn, he's a bandit captain wanted by many kingdoms. He has a large number of powerful beast men under his command. A few years ago, he killed a guardian and his family, which made him the priority target of the entire guild. He was hunted down by the Guardians and declared dead, but I saw this evil fuck alive and kicking in the forest surrounding the royal land. What's the connection?" the baby dragon asked. Michael told the baby dragon about his Lucifer persona and everything related to the Dark Lord, as the baby dragon had to know to help Michael in the future. Those nobles who got killed by the fake Lucifer, they weren't killed in the royal land as the Guardians and the church is claiming. They were all killed during their travels after Michael left the royal land searching for the doctor. Gaia discreetly collected information about the killings. While she was gathering information, she learned about the security that the nobles had and wondered how did the fake Lucifer manage to kill them, deceiving all the guards and security measures. And her question was answered when she learned about each noble's schedule before they died through various means such as bribing and torturing the servants of the dead nobles without revealing her face. She found out that all the victims had two things in common. One, that all of them were killed after they traveled outside the kingdom and guessed only their bodies were brought down to royal land to display to the people. Second, they had all done some evil deeds that deserve nothing more than a gruesome death. She then immediately collected information to form a list of potential victims of fake Lucifer and learn about their schedule. With this information, she identified one possible victim, the cousin of Minister Jurdy. And that's where things got interesting. Chapter 178. Since Jurdy's cousin and his wife did some fucked up shit as well as they had to leave the kingdom to attend a gala at Kethen, I guessed they would be the next target. Then, I followed them, but not before taking that camera thingy we were using to monitor Dalar, as I had a feeling I might need that. Just like I guessed, when their carriage was passing through the forest, they were attacked by a group of highly trained beast men. "How high?" Michael asked. Jurdy's cousin had 4 level 10 and 10 level 7 core formation warriors, but it only took 3 level 8 core formation beastmen to take them down in just 40 seconds. "They came, attacked, and disappeared just like that," Gaia said, snapping. Michael's brows raised slightly hearing Gaia. Even 3 of him couldn't take 14 core formation warriors under 40 seconds as the beastmen did, according to Gaia. "What happened next?" the baby dragon asked her curiously. "What do you think?" "I followed them to their campsite, but I couldn't get closer to the camps without alerting them, as they had a magical barrier around the place. I waited there for an entire day, waiting for them to make a move, and the next day, I saw Quinn walking out of one of the huts followed by 2 frickin' core strengthening level 3 beastmen. However, that wasn't what surprised me, it was what happened next." She paused for a moment to build up the tension as the baby dragon slowly stood up, waiting for her to continue. "The lackeys of Quinn came out of the hut carrying the bloodied bodies of Jurdy's cousin and his wife. I knew something really fucked up was going on and followed them deeper into the forest until I saw them placing the 2 bodies in the middle of the forest. At first, I thought they were just leaving the bodies for the predators to eat, but when I tried to get closer, I sensed another buried, and this time the barrier was several times stronger than before. I knew I would be attacked by the barrier or get caught by the one who set the barrier, so I kept a safe distance and used the rare mind-controlling scroll on a bird." "Why did you do that?" the baby dragon questioned Gaia to see her roll her eyes. "To strap the camera thingy around the bird's neck to get a bird's eye view." Michael felt proud of her. She did the right thing because the mini camera was bought from the system store and had no magical trace to it, so barriers set by the cultivators couldn't detect the camera. This was one of the reasons that he used it to monitor Dalar without the orc detecting the camera. Plus, the camera could be instantly connected to any glass orb that Gaia had in her space ring. The only downside of the camera was if it wasn't set by Michael himself, there wouldn't be any recording of the feed, but it didn't stop Gaia from using the camera. As I was waiting for something to happen, the camera thingy got a picture of a cloaked figure who picked up the bodies and disappeared in a flash. The next day, the church and guardians declared that Minister Jurdy's cousin and his wife were brutally murdered by Lucifer in their home. What makes you say it was the guardians who have been pretending to be Lucifer? This time it was not the baby dragon, but Michael asked the question. Think about it, human. Who could bring the bodies into the kingdom and display the bodies in the daylight without alerting the holy guards or the guardians unless it was the guardians themselves? What about the church and holy guards? He asked again as Gaia shook her head. I know the church and the holy guards, they won't go around murder people unless someone picked a fight with the church. Some of those dead nobles constantly paid donations to the church, although they were evil pieces of shit, they went to church regularly. Why would the church kill them to catch Lucifer? Besides, the priests won't let something like this happen as it would stain their image and the fake Lucifer is throwing up on their image. So that leaves us with one possible suspect, the guardians. I did not see the cloaked figure and have no real proof to back my claim, human, but every fiber in my body is telling me it's the guardians. I trust your judgment. Michael agreed with her because what she said made sense to him. He knew it must be either the church or the guardians who had the resources and power to display the bodies in the daylight without alerting the guards. The good thing was all the dead nobles were evil, so his image of evil killing Lucifer would not take a major hit because of the fake Lucifer, but still, he had to tell the royal land that it's not him, the real Lucifer, who was killing the nobles. If it was before he went to the treacherous ocean, he would have let the fake Lucifer run around, as he did not have the chance to kill the nobles who were now protected by the holy guards and their own guards. However, with the inventor trait, he could assassinate them without getting closer to the nobles. Of course, it would require him to do a good old-fashioned stakeout, information gathering, and planning to assassinate them, except he was great at those things. Do you still have the list of evil nobles in royal land? Of course I still have it. Why are you two grinning? The baby dragon asked, noticing the devilish grin on their faces. You will know soon, Dickie. Don't call me Dickie. Ouch! The baby dragon lunged at Gaia, biting her hand mercilessly in anger. Speaking of Dickie, we need to name him. Michael put aside the list for a moment and said, pulling the baby dragon from her hand. We already did. His name is Dickie. He release me. I'm gonna take a bite out of her. The baby dragon struggled to get out of Michael's clutch as he reached out his claws to at least scratch her. Looking at the furious baby dragon, she just stuck her tongue out to make fun of him. Michael patted the baby dragon's head while thinking of a badass name suitable for a mighty dragon. Nightmare. After deep thinking, Michael found a name for his baby dragon. I don't like it. What about Aslan? Bitch. Hey. Michael released the baby dragon as they both began to roll around the floor, playfully fighting with each other. He grabbed the list to pick his next target. It didn't take him long before his eyes landed on a familiar name, Minister Jurdy. He did not need to ask what Minister Jurdy did to end up on Gaia's list, because if Jurdy made it to the list, he must have done some evil shit. Michael knew it. However, before he could start preparing for the assassination, he had another most important task to finish. He quickly took a piece of paper from the table before them and began to write a list of things he needed to finish the task as well as test his inverter skill. Dickie, you are just at the foundation stage. You cannot hurt me, Gaia said, flicking the baby dragon on the forehead. But I can still burn your clothes. The baby dragon revealed an evil smile as he quickly ran up to her neck and grabbed her neck from behind using his claws. The fuck? Don't you dare, I just bought these. She felt the baby dragon's body getting warmer and warmer. She struggled to grab him, but the baby dragon easily avoided her hands thanks to his small body. Quit it, you two, Michael laughed, seeing the two play and fight like little children. Yet the two of them did not stop fighting until he used a low-powered wind blast to throw them onto the sofa. Do you know what happened to Ella and Matthias? I thought he would come here to make me apologize. Gaia stopped fighting with the baby dragon as Nightmare flew into Michael's hand, tired of fighting. After I returned to the sect, I sent potions and pills to her so she could use them to earn the support of elders and some influential disciples. 3 days ago she sent me a message that she has been convincing people to join her and so far everything's going well. Probably Matthias had forgotten about you in the midst of saving his seat. Make sure Ella stay alive. It's most likely that Matthias wouldn't go down without a fight. Gaia simply nodded, hearing him. How's the construction work of our restaurant going on? Pretty well, actually. We had no ambushes after the first Reaper's attack, so it's going on at full speed. The dwarf said the restaurant will be finished by the start of next week. And oh, Olivia is staying with Claire, and just like I said, Aragoth built a mini portal for her to travel between Aragoth and here. Now we have Aragoth and a soul refiner to protect our sect, so we should speed up the renovations and stuff. She felt excited thinking about how rich they would be after making Sunrise Sect one of the best sects in Elon. Yes, we have a lot of work to do. Chapter 179. After leaving the warmth of the house, he stepped outside into the bone-chilling cold and saw Cindy and her group making a snowman. When the little girl saw him, she dropped the snow in her hand, running towards him. As usual, she threw herself with utmost trust that he would catch her. You gained some weight, Cindy. I can barely lift you. Michael pretended to be struggling as the little girl laughed. I've grown stronger. Teacher Claire said I would soon reach the foundation stage. She flexed her biceps before locking her gaze with the baby dragon. Her eyes sparkled as she reached her hands out to grab Nightmare. Brother, can I please hug him? She pleaded to Michael, seeing Nightmare swiftly avoiding her little hands. Come on, Nightmare, don't disappoint a cute little fudge like Cindy. Yeah, be a good pet, he. Gaia chuckled, embarrassing Nightmare, but before he could do or say anything, Michael gently grabbed the little dragon and handed him over to Cindy. He's Susu. Cindy squeezed him against her chest, showering Nightmare with kisses. Come on, little human, stop it. But no matter how hard he protested, Cindy did not stop kissing him. Who would have thought a terrifying dragon would be showered with kisses by a little girl? Nightmare pleadingly looked at Michael, asking him wordlessly to save him from this embarrassment. However, this scene was too cute for Michael to stop. He just carried Cindy in his arms, walking towards the herbal garden to plant the new rare herbs he picked from the treacherous ocean. On his way to the herbal garden, he noticed the renovation work was 70% completed and ready to move on to constructing new buildings. A couple of disciples ran through the snow carrying firewood from the nearby forest to their student quarters. How you doing, senior? Greetings, Sister Elia. Hiya, Cindy. The disciples happily greeted them before continuing their work. None of them seemed to notice Michael's cultivation level though, or they would have freaked out immediately. He noticed the disciples weren't wearing suitable clothes for winter but wearing their usual uniforms. Thinking about this, he just nodded at them with a smile while Cindy gave them a short wave as she was busy squeezing Nightmare. After strolling through the snow, Michael came to his herbal garden where a group of disciples shoveled the snow from the garden under the supervision of Elder Reiner. Just like the disciples he met before, the disciples who were working in the garden too did not wear winter clothes, and even Elder Reiner wore normal clothes. Although a cultivator could use arch energy to keep the body temperature unchanged, it was a waste of energy to constantly use it to keep the body warm rather than just simply wearing suitable clothes. Even Michael felt it would be a waste of energy to keep his body warm using arch energy rather than wearing winter clothes. Yet until he could actually buy some winter clothes, he had no choice but to use arch energy so he wouldn't freeze to death in this climate. Ghost, you're back. I heard what happened to the baby dragon. Is he all right now? Elder Reiner's eyes were filled with concern and worry. He quickly placed his palm on the baby dragon's head like he's checking the baby dragon's body temperature. Humans, save me. Elder Reiner took back his hand in lightning fast and stared at the baby dragon, trembling in shock. So it's true, even the baby dragons can communicate using human tongue. Of course I can talk, now help me, human. Nightmare tried to get out of Cindy's clutches by asking Elder Reiner to save him. Come here, little fellow, let me hug him just a little more. Nightmare sighed in relief, but to his shock, Elder Reiner too acted like Cindy, squeezing him before kissing him on the forehead. What is with you humans, squeezing me? Elder Reiner, I bought some new herbs, how about we plant them now? Really? Here, take him. Elder Reiner's face brightened up in excitement. He quickly gave back Nightmare to Cindy before Nightmare could escape. I assume you took them from the treacherous ocean, Elder Reiner calmly asked, and his calmness really surprised both Gaia and Michael. Yes, Elder Reiner. You seem awfully calm about that, Michael said. Elder Reiner just patted Michael on the shoulder. Young bloods like you need to take risks like that. Besides, I knew you would survive that place. It was a breath of fresh air for Michael to see Elder Reiner act so calm even after hearing that he went to the treacherous ocean. The vote of confidence made Michael like Elder Reiner more than the other elders. Elder Reiner, where are the other elders? And have you seen Claire? Gaia asked, doubting that Elder Reiner still has no idea about the return of Claire's grandfather. They are in seclusion. I think they won't be available for another 3 days, and Claire, she's in her home. Why do you ask? Because the previous sect leader, Christopher Marigold, is not dead and he's with sect leader Claire right now. Elder Reiner halted his steps as a sliver of cold chill ran through his spine. His usual smile instantly vanished from his face and replaced by a mix of complicated emotions. No. It can't be. How? It's true, Elder Reiner. Whoa, Elder Reiner stumbled on Michael as he quickly grabbed the old man to steady him. You, get your ass over here, Gaia shouted at one of the disciples shoveling snow. Not only the one who was summoned by Gaia but also every disciple who was working in the garden came running to Elder Reiner when they saw Michael holding Elder Reiner's weak body. Grandpa Reiner, what happened to you? Cindy stopped petting Nightmare, looking at Elder Reiner. Her eyes already started to well up in tears. This is why you never break shocking news to elders too suddenly, Elia, Gaia shrugged hearing Michael. Yeah, you dumb, you almost killed that old human. Nightmare did not let go of this opportunity to mock her while hovering above her head. Ghost, how, where? Elder Reiner asked in a weak voice. I think it's better if you ask the previous sect leader himself, Elder Reiner, Michael said as Elder Reiner slowly regained his normal composure to go meet the previous sect leader himself. Do you think I should break the news to Elder Sandra? Gaia laughed, thinking that she almost gave a heart attack to Elder Reiner. The old man's reaction saddened and shocked the others, but for her, it was funny. No, you shouldn't, Michael said before slapping the back of her head. Plop. Jerk. After Elder Reiner went to meet Christopher and Claire, Michael stepped into his garden and planted all the new herbs he brought, such as blue camellia, mountain saffron, ivory dill, autumn leaves, worm mustard, and many others. Since the disciples did not know much about herbs, they couldn't recognize the value of the herbs they were planting along with Michael. However, Gaia recognized a few of the rare herbs such as blue camellia, and bounced up and down in excitement thinking about how much money they would make by selling the herbs to nobles and alchemists. If I can eat that, Ghosty, I can definitely reach foundation stage level 3 in a few weeks. Nightmare sniffed the ivory dill with sparkling eyes only to get swatted by Michael. Go away. It's not for you to eat, not yet, he. Gaia laughed at Nightmare getting chased away by Michael, leisurely sitting on her chair without helping Michael in the garden works. That was intense. While Michael was gently planting the herbs, he saw Jack walking into the garden flabbergasted. I've never seen sect leader Claire cry like that, Jack sighed sitting on the ground near her feet. Did you see Elder Reiner? Yeah, he's currently with sect leader Christopher. Brother Ghost, Sister Elia. Do you think sect leader Claire would step down from her position? The disciples working with Michael looked at him waiting for his answer. I don't know, but I guess sect leader Christopher won't take the position even if sect leader Claire decided to give him, Michael said like it was only his guess, but deep down he knew Christopher wouldn't take the sect leader position as he has more important things to worry about, like searching for a permanent way to lift the curse and rescue Claire's mother from the elves. Since Michael had to face the great clans anyways, he planned to use Claire's mother as an excuse to fight the elves unless they choose to stay the fuck out of his way of conquering this world. Jack, I need you to hit Bradford and buy these things for me. Michael gave the list of things he needed to build his secret weapon to beat all the Guardians and the Church. When he finished building what he's planning, the Church, the Guardians, and all of the nobles in Gaia's hit list wouldn't even know what hit them. The time for relaxation was over, and after returning to Abyssal, the time for bloody action would begin and Lucifer's name would spread through the entire kingdom. Take the Pegasus, and also, Michael handed over the list to Jack before turning to look at all the disciples. Bring the biggest cloth merchant in Breedia to me. Hi readers, as usual, this chapter is about the little things that would make the story flow flawlessly. From the next surprising arc will begin, and trust me, it's going to be one hell of a ride packed with action and adventure. Chapter 180. When the sun's light faded away and the darkness surrounded the mountains, Michael and Gaia left their home through the back door. They informed Jack that they are going to secluded cultivation and not to be disturbed. After reaching the core formation stage, Michael's flying speed increased significantly. It only took them 5 hours to reach the dark forest. No matter how many times I enter this place, it still gives me the creeps, Gaia said, staring at the dark walls of the abyssal. The winter climate blanketed everything in white snow except the dark forest, as not a single drop of snow could be seen in the forest. As usual, the dark storm clouds hovered over the forest with continuous flashing purple streaks of lightning. It was a domain that stood independently, radiating an evil vibe, a vibe that could be even compared to the treacherous ocean. "This is home, Dark Queen," Michael, who was now adorning Lucifer's armor, said. He truly did feel at home, much as he did when he was at the sect. To be honest, he liked Abyssal more because here, he was himself. Deep down he knew Ghost was just a facade and Lucifer is the real him. Michael did not waste any time interacting with Dalar but went straight to his room on the far end of the underground. Dickie would love this place. Gaia jumped onto the bed that Michael bought from the system and placed it in his room, which was used by her more than him. His room had not many things and seemed empty. Only a few things occupied the space, such as a large table and a comfy chair, 2 6-feet-tall book racks, and a spacious fancy black bed. "We can't bring him here. Anyone with half a brain could connect Nightmare to Ghost and guess Ghost is Lucifer," Michael said, sitting before the large table to build things. Leisurely supporting her head using her hand, Gaia stared curiously at him to see what he was up to. Michael willed the system to take out the things Jack bought for him. Soon afterward, on the table appeared a stack of mirrors. Each individual mirror was the size of a 24-inch monitor. "What do you want to do with all these mirrors? See yourself from various angles?" Gaia chuckled. "We are going to see the entire Breedia, behind the black mask." Gaia was stunned to hear his words. She quickly stood up and came closer to see him applying a grayish glue-like substance on one side of the mirrors. "Let me help too," she said, taking another brush from the table to apply the grayish substance on the mirrors just like he does. "What do you mean by seeing the entire Breedia, while applying the glue?" Gaia asked Michael. "It's easier to show than explain." Michael continued to apply the glue. After a few minutes, Michael used the arch energy to lift the mirrors before placing them one after another on the wall before him. In just a few seconds, the entire wall was filled with mirrors and reflected nothing but the images of Gaia and Michael. "Now what?" "Now I'm going to build an army of spies." Gaia's face was full of wonder and confusion, but before she could ask a question, she saw him take out a big chunk of metal ore, cogs, and gears, and quite a few other items. Junk metal. In a single glance at the metal ore, she identified it as the junk metal. She took the metal ore in her hands, staring at Michael wordlessly, asking him why did he buy this ore of useless metal. "Why do you call this a junk metal?" "Because it has no arch energy radiation," Michael asked without showing any emotions, but inside, he was laughing at the people of this world, thinking about their ignorance. Duh, the junk metal, as its name suggests, had no use whatsoever because unlike everything in this world that radiates at least a bit of arch energy, the junk metal did not have the ability to contain arch energy. Since it contained no arch energy, the bond between the molecules was extremely weak for a metal. In other words, it did not possess the strength of an average metal and it was barely considered as a metal in this world. "Tell me how the defense spells and arrays work." "Why?" "You already know that, just enlighten me." One could see her roll her eyes if it wasn't for the mask, yet she sighed and explained to him. "It's simple actually. The defense security spells and arrays work by detecting the concentration of arch energy. For instance, a rare security array would usually detect anyone at or above the body strengthening stage except the people who have the mark that prevent array or spells from activating. As for the lifeless things, the array or spell would remember everything around its effective area when it was initially cast, and if something new entered its space, it would identify the thing as an unknown object and activate the countermeasures as well as inform the one who cast the spell and guards." Her words reminded Michael of his previous life. As an assassin, he often had to deal with security technologies like motion sensors, security cameras, heat sensors, and many more. In a sense, these security arrays and defense spells were the same but extremely deadlier and effective than the security on Earth. In this world, a cultivator radiated arch-energy, and no matter how powerful a cultivator becomes, one could never stop the arch-energy radiating from the body. In fact, the more powerful one becomes, the more the arch-energy she would radiate. As Gaia explained, the arrays and spells work by detecting the arch-energy radiated from the body or a thing. This was why the assassins or thieves in this world had a hard time infiltrating and killing high-profile targets like the king or ministers, and often tried to kill the targets outside their stronghold. Since the spell or the array would activate in a very short amount of time, even killing the target from a distance using a powerful bow was not an option for assassins in this world. Now tell me, if I throw this junk metal into a security array, do you think it would activate the array? Of course not. And do you think someone hasn't tried making an arrow out of the junk metal and killing someone from a distance? Gaia asked, emphasizing the word you. Michael just calmly shook his head. Of course, he knew someone might have tried to use this junk metal's trait to break the security spells or array. However, they did not have a system and an inventor trait to breach the security. Just watch. Anticipation made Gaia jump on the table and sit there staring at what he's doing. Before starting to build his army of spies, he took a 1 foot long tubular metal and a few other parts that had runes on them. Most of these parts were used to assemble magical objects such as carriages, weapons, and tools used by people of various professions. Therefore, he could directly buy the parts rather than custom building them. After looking at him assembling the parts and gluing them together, she saw him taking the junk metal ore and placing them before him. Under Gaia's gaze, Michael gently caressed the long metal tube in his hand. It resembled the shape of a ballpoint pen, only it was 1 foot long and had a diameter of 3 inches. Let's see. Ignitia, holding the pointy end of the metal tube at the junk metal, Michael cast Ignitia as a bolt of lightning went straight into the metal tube. Wow! Gaia's eyes immediately widened in shock and surprise, seeing a bright blue color light appear out of the metal tube's point end, forming a hole in the metal ore. What is this? Gaia asked curiously. This was the first time she saw a light cutting metal with this precision and ease. Normally, she knew the blacksmiths would heat the metal using various means before cutting them, and even though it was a weak junk metal, Gaia could tell the heat coming from the blue light could easily cut many strong metals such as iron, silver, and gold. It's called laser. With this I can build my army of little spies. How? Her eyes sparkled, wanting to play with the laser like a child. You'll see. After successfully building a laser to cut the metal in desirable shape for his first big move in taking over Breedia, he had everything he needed to build little spy cameras. Michael's full focus was on the task at hand as he began to cut the metal ore and assemble various parts in front of Gaia's eyes. He felt like Batman who was creating Batarang in his Batcave. Spider? After Michael assembled his first spy camera, Gaia took it gently and examined it with eyes full of curiosity and wonder. The spycam on Gaia's hand was the size of a shirt button. It had 8 tiny legs, and instead of 8 eyes, it had only 1 eye on the center of its head. How does it work? System: connect the spider cam to one of the mirrors. Before answering Gaia, Michael entered the system to connect his spy cam to one of the mirrors. He did build the spy cam to use arch energy and link with any orbs without the help of the system, but with the help of the system, he knew that he could create a state-of-the-art surveillance unit in Abyssal. It will cost the host 20 badass points. Do it. Michael experienced a tingling sensation in his mind after he ordered the system. Soon afterward, he exited the system to feel that he could control the spider cam using his thoughts instead of a remote. Whoa! Behind the mask, Gaia's jaw slightly dropped when one of the mirrors suddenly began to show her face. She stared at the mirror and the spider on her palm repeatedly until Michael gently grabbed the spider cam from her. With this, we can soon spy on the entire Breedia. Chapter 181. Wonderful. Gaia joyfully clapped, thinking about the opportunities these little spiders would bring them. She focused on the spiders Michael is building, but no matter how hard she focused, she couldn't even sense a trace of arch energy from them as expected of the spiders made of junk metal. One by one Michael connected the spiders to the mirrors, building a state-of-the-art surveillance unit in the Abyssal. After building a couple of spiders, his speed increased significantly. It took him approximately 2 hours to build 60 spiders before finally running out of parts and materials. We have 60 spiders, so we have to use them efficiently. Can you build more of these, and how do you control them? I can control them using a telepathic link, and at the moment I can maximum control 65 spiders. The number of spiders he was able to control depended on his cultivation level. At the core formation stage, he could maximum control 100 spiders when he reaches the level 10. At level 1, 60 was his threshold, but 60 spiders were more than enough for him to spy on the important nobles and figures in Breedia. Since that's the case, I suggest we send some of them to the church, guardians, and the king of Breedia. It's my plan too, but we should test our little spies first. A devilish smile could be seen behind Michael's black mask, and the same could be said to Gaia. At this moment, the world had not one but two dark lords, Lucifer and his queen. The two of them were made for each other, as they had the same target in their minds, Minister Jerdy. So what are we waiting for? Let's go. Gaia was excited to see the spiders in action. I have one more thing to do. How strong is your venom? The sudden question slightly surprised her. Anyone below my cultivation stage would definitely die if my poison entered their body. The weaker they are, the faster they die. What about the people above your cultivation stage? Core strengthening stage beings will be weakened instantly and would die in a few days if they don't take an antidote or a potion to counteract the poison. I'm not completely sure of what will be the effects to anyone above the core strengthening stage. Michael heard what she heard silently before taking out a vial and a few herbs he picked from the treacherous ocean and the sky garden from his space ring. Spit it out, okay, plop. Michael lightly slapped the back of her head when she was about to spit saliva into the vial instead of the poison. Why did you do that? Spit your poison, not your saliva. She punched him the shoulder and said, next time use the word poison, you dumb fuck. Oh, I'm a dumb fuck? Just give me your poison, your royal highness. He couldn't help but chuckle after hearing her. With the smirk on her face, she lifted the mask as her canines slightly grew longer like a vampire. Soon from the point of her two canines, dark green drops of poison dribbled into the vial, permitting a nauseating stench. After the vial was half filled with Gaia's poison, Michael conjured the alchemy flames above his hand and began to throw the herbs on the table into the green flames. Gaia patiently waited for him to complete the potion brewing. System, can you remove the arch-energy radiation from this potion? Michael asked the system, staring at the colorless liquid in the vial before him. It can be done for 1,000 badass points. 1,000 points, huh? Michael pondered for a moment before ordering the system to do it. Take it. A small layer of light that could only be seen by Michael wrapped around the vial before fading away from the eyes. The next moment, Michael could not sense any arch-energy radiation from the potion. It was completely colorless and odorless. What is this? A better variant of your poison. Michael handed over the poison to Gay to inspect. She took a sniff and then stuck the point of her tongue to taste test it. It is my poison, but how can it not have any trace of arch-energy? I'm a 5-star alchemist with ancient knowledge, and I'm awesome. Yes, you are. Gaia leaned closer to lift his mask before locking his face with hers to merge in a passionate kiss. A week after Michael built his spy cameras, at the moment in Royal Land, two cloaked figures were standing far away from a mansion blending with the surrounding trees. The mansion was located in a residential area of the Royal Land. There were no buzzing crowds. Line of buildings and merchant carriages could be seen in the area around the mansion. From the outside, the mansion looked old but wonderful. It was built with tan stones and has red brick decorations. Large, octagon windows added to the overall look of the house and have been added to the house in a very symmetric way. The mansion was square-shaped. The house was fully surrounded by glass overhanging panels. It had 2 floors. The second floor was smaller than the first, which allowed for a roof garden on 2 sides of the house. This floor had a very different style than the floor below. The roof was low and rounded and was covered with stone slabs. 2 large chimneys on each side of the manor poked out of the roof. Several large windows let in plenty of light to the rooms below the roof. The manor itself was surrounded by a gorgeous garden, including hanging grapevines, a pagoda, a pond, and many different flowers. On top of the beautiful garden, the manor was filled with soldiers in iron armor, people with staff, and archers. Despite the heavy snowfall and the cold, the soldiers did not seem to slack off. the patrolling units were strolling through the knee-high snow without getting tired. There was only one road that came out of the main gate, and except for a group of soldiers who were patrolling, there were no carriages or people could be seen traveling on the road. The two figures who were looking at the manor from the distance wore simple tunics. They did not stand out much, and anyone who saw them would think they were just resting under the shade of trees. Besides the two cloaked figures, there were a couple of travelers and merchants who were resting before campfires to escape the cold of the winter. Time to let the spiders out the bag. One of the cloaked figures took a small pouch from their pocket and opened the pouch as several little spiders in various colors jumped out of the pouch. Soon the spiders changed their colors to blend in with the environment like a chameleon. Some spiders on the ground changed their colors to snow white, while those that were on the grass changed their color to green. "Creepy, but I like them," the other cloaked figure said in a feminine voice. Obviously, these two figures were Michael and Gaia, who spent a week flying to royal land from the dark forest. Since they were here to spy and kill Jurdy, they changed their appearance by changing their clothes and the color of their hair using a simple potion brewed by Michael. "Let's head back to the tavern and monitor the spiders from there." Michael paid for a room in a tavern nearest to Jurdy's manor. After moving the spiders into the pile of snow on the road to the manor, Michael and Gaia began to walk in the direction of the tavern. The streets before Michael was blanketed with snow, but it did not seem to stop the people from coming out of their homes. He saw many fancy carriages running through the streets, while people wearing fur-covered winter clothes strolling through the snow to their work. It took Michael a few minutes of walking to exit the residential area and enter the town square, where he saw the handiwork of fake Lucifer a few weeks ago when he was at Royal Land. Michael and Gaia did not spend much time on the crime scene. They swiftly went to the tavern and entered their room without socializing with the crowd in the tavern. Their room was just like any other room in a tavern. It had a bed, a table, and a chair, but the room was cleaner than the tavern he used to stay in the river town. Shut the door. While Michael was placing the orbs on the table, Gaia used arch energy to keep the door shut and prevent anyone from eavesdropping from the adjacent rooms. "Let's see." Michael closed his eyes to connect the 10 spiders he dropped from the pouch to the orbs before him. Soon afterward, each orb showed the scenery of snow and a mansion in the distance. Michael began to control the spiders from his room. "Damn snow. It makes patrolling so tiring. Shut up and do your job. We will be hanged to death if something happens to Minister Jurdy." While the spiders passing the patrolling soldiers, Michael heard their conversation through the orbs. "Lucifer really fucked up Jared Gertie and his wife. I hate to say, but they deserved it after what they did to the Southerner slaves. Why are you shedding tears for Southerners? Those weaklings wouldn't be in this position if they were blessed with the ability to cultivate." "Don't be an asshole, Liam. Imagine that if you were sent to another continent as a slave. That's a worse fate one could have. Minister Jurdy is one sick bastard for in the trade for Southern slaves." Michael hid the spiders in the snow to listen to the soldiers as they continued. "Shoo. Are you planning to get killed? Even the Guardians or the King have no problem with importing Southern slaves. What a bunch of hypocrites. As long as the slaves from the Southern continent, the Guardians are fine with it, huh?" Michael snickered. The more he learned about the Guardians, the more he realized that the Guardians are not what most people think they are. Finally done with all the info fillers for this arc. From the Expect the Badass Action of Lucifer. Chapter 182. Fuck. I'm freezing. I cannot stand this. I'm going to use arch energy to warm myself. Inside Jurdy's manor, one of the soldiers patrolling through the corridors complained to his colleague. "Keep it together, man. The captain ordered us not to waste energy warming ourselves." The soldier who complained reluctantly nodded, rubbing his hands together. "Gary, that lucky bastard was assigned to the hall where they have that cozy fireplace. Why didn't someone build a fireplace here?" "Fireplace in a corridor near the servants' latrine. Yeah, a great idea," the guard replied with a voice overflowing with sarcasm. Creak. What is that? The two soldiers immediately stopped their chatter when they heard a creak coming from above them. Their bodies tensed as their gripes on their spears tightened. Squeak, squeak. Shortly, they heard the squealing sound of a rat. "It must be a damn rat. Shit, I nearly wet my pants," the soldier who was complaining about the fireplace said, letting out a breath of a sigh. "Hey, it's time. Look normal," the soldier said, suddenly standing straight without leaning on the wall behind him. The other one also did the same and quickly hid the discomfort of the cold from his face. A few minutes after they were standing straight, a group of 3 people in full iron plate and chainmail walked towards them from the far end of the corridor. The 2 soldiers felt the cold in the area disappear as an overwhelming pressure made their breathing heavy. When the trio of iron-plated warriors got closer to the 2 guards, they stared at the 2 guards and the area for a moment before walking away from them. Only when the trio disappeared from their sight, the 2 soldiers could breathe normally. Just their presence is enough to make breathing hard. No shit, they are core formation level 10 warriors, what do you expect? Creak. It's that damn rat AG. Before the soldier could finish his sentence, a figure leaped down from above through the ceiling and stuck a dagger into the soldier's throat. The figure did not give the time for the other soldier to react. In lightning fast, the figure took out the bloodied dagger from the soldier's throat and stabbed the other one straight through the eye, ending his life swiftly. After ending the 2 soldiers' lives, the figure dragged their bodies quickly into the latrine behind. The figure then pulled away the dark clothes as the pool of blood on the ground reflected an image of a young girl with brown hair. I hope this is the last time I have to kill. Arya stared at the 2 dead bodies in the ground with eyes full of pity. She then walked out of the latrine before sticking an out-of-order sign on the door. It had been 4 years since she became an apprentice of a grim reaper called Dagger. He was not only her mentor but also her master, the one who holds absolute power over her. In simple words, she was his slave. Unlike many other masters, he gave Arya a way to earn her freedom, which was to kill his targets for him, and eventually, he would release her from the slave bond. Although he did not tell how many people she had to kill, it was still better than having no hope to get her freedom back. Plus, the fire of vengeance inside her made her do anything to kill General Quintus, who invaded their homeland and captured her brothers as slaves. She never wanted any of this but to rescue her brothers. She needed to become strong, and from what she heard from Dagger, she was blessed with a godly ability that let her completely mask the arch-energy radiating from her body, which would prevent the cultivators and arrays from detecting her. She still had much to learn about this ability and use it to its maximum potential. According to Dagger, Jurdi was running a slave mine in Kethan and said killing Jurdi would save hundreds of southerners from becoming slaves in the Elan continent. Thinking about the slave traders, the flames of anger burned hotter inside her heart. With a cold killing intent in her eyes, she navigated through the corridors to Minister Jurdi's room. Get ready to go to hell, Minister Jurdi. When she came before a 6-foot dual door that had the words Minister Jurdi in delicate carving, she mumbled under her breath with a wicked smile on her face. 3 minutes, reminding herself the remaining time before the next group of holy guards came to guard the room. She knocked on the door before taking out a vial from her chest pocket in the maid outfit she's wearing. Who is that? A calm voice sounded from the other side of the door. My lord, Lord Rickman sent me here with the potion you asked him to get. Oh? Come in. Hiding the expression of disgust from her face, Arya opened the door to see an old man with shoulder-length white hair standing before a window. The old man turned his gaze away from the windows with a kind smile. If one did not know about the true nature of the old man, they wouldn't think of him as the notorious slave trader and a man who loved to abuse young slaves on a daily basis. The kind smile on his face even made Arya wonder if this really Minister Jurdi she read about in a file Dagger gave her. Give me the potion. However, her doubt disappeared when she saw the kind smile turning into a wicked smile looking at the sky blue potion in her hands. Yes, my lord, this is just what I need right now. The old man grabbed his crotch, wickedly smiling at Arya. If Michael was, he would have recognized the potion. It was the potion that most of the old men at his age desire, the lizard's dream, which was used to temporarily cure erectile dysfunction and increase stamina. This potion would give him the ability to wash away the sorrow of losing his cousin. He had to pay a hefty sum to get his hands on the potion. Rickman, you bastard, you really know what I want. Minister Jurdi took the potion from Arya's hands like it was his baby before staring at her from head to toe. Come closer, darling. Taking a long sniff at the potion, the old man called her. Yes, my lord. She wished she could just kill him here and now, but Dagger ordered her to kidnap Minister Jurdi with the help of a teleportation scroll. However, it didn't mean she cannot stab him in the gut, avoiding his organs to vent her anger. Do you want me to undress you, my lord? She caressed the old man's thighs with her fingers. And just when Minister Jurdi was about to swallow the potion, Arya punched him in the balls. Dash! The old man wanted to scream, but Arya punched him in the throat in a blink of an eye, shutting the old man's cry. After what happened with Nickmon family head, she did not dare to waste any time as she quickly retrieved the teleportation scroll from her space ring. The moment after she tore the teleportation array, a golden light wrapped both Arya and Jurdy before disappearing along with them. However, in the heat of the moment, Arya failed to notice a small spider on Jurdy's shoulder. Somewhere far away from the royal land, Arya and Minister Jurdy appeared in the middle of a room. The room was decorated with cobwebs and dust. Arya could only see trees through the broken windows. "Welcome to nowhere, Minister Jurdy, he. From the dark shadows of the room, a tall figure emerged to greet Arya and Jurdy. Minister Jurdy was not a powerful cultivator, he was only at the body refining stage, so he was still feeling the excruciating pain of getting his balls punched. He growled in pain and slowly looked up in the direction of the voice to see a tall figure wearing red robes and a clown mask. On his chest dangled a medallion with a wolf head etched on its surface. Master Arira bowed deeply towards the clown-faced man and stepped aside from Jurdy. He, you did good, my student, he. His laughter filled the silent room with wickedness and sent a cold chill running through Jurdy's spine. Who are you? What do you want? Images of his cousin's body and the victims of Lucifer flashed across his mind, making him think the clown is the infamous Lucifer. Are you Lucifer? Jurdy crawled back in fear. He, Lucifer? Me? People call me Dagger. In a blink of an eye, the clown took out 3 long jade daggers from nowhere. He played with them by throwing and catching the daggers like in a circus. Don't worry about Lucifer, he. You are perfectly safe from him or her, although I don't think Lucifer's woman. He. Release me. Do you know who I am? After seeing he was not kidnapped by Lucifer, Jurdy was not as afraid as he was a second ago. Of course I know who you are, didn't you hear what I called you a moment ago? Dagger stepped closer to Jurdy while playing with his daggers. Although it's me who's going to kill you, it's Lucifer who would take the blame. He. What dash, chill. Jurdy's voice was interrupted by the sound of shattering glass. Dagger immediately stopped playing with the daggers while Arya quickly took out a dagger just like the one in the clown's hand. Ah. Dagger turned his head to see Jurdy screaming in horror, his face turned extremely pale. Dagger did see fear in Jurdy's eyes earlier, but now the fear in his eyes was nothing like before. Go away. He was about to approach Jurdy when he saw Arya frantically swinging her dagger in the air. He, what's happening? Dagger was confused seeing his student act like a maniac. He looked around the room, scanning every dark corner. While he was scanning the room, he felt something moving on his shoulder. Whoa? He quickly grabbed the thing moving on his shoulder to see a flickering spider caught between his fingers. You gave me quite a shock, Spidey. He stared at the spider. The spider, however, suddenly exploded into white mist. Damn, an exploding spider. Without his knowing, he inhaled the white mist and began to cough. Cough. What? Cough. What's he? Cough. Welcome to hell, clown. A terrifying unearthly voice appeared out of nowhere, making Dagger stumble back. Chapter 183. The clown was frantically looking around the room to see where the voice was coming from. Pulch. While he was looking around, an arrow soared through the broken window and penetrated his right shoulder. He, who is that? A terrifying fear began to sprout in his heart, making his body shiver without his control. Minister Jurdy and Arya already lost consciousness and Dagger could barely stand straight. Another clown trying to use my name to kill, the voice appeared again before the door exploded into countless pieces of splinters. Through the smoke of dust, Dagger saw not one but 2 figures walking out. Even in the dim lighting in the room, their red eyes shone like rubies. When the dust settled, Dagger vaguely saw that although the 2 figures looked the same, he could tell one of them is a woman as her armor was caviar to fit a woman. He's dead, pathetic little worm. She may be a woman, but her voice sounded nothing like a woman, it sounded animalistic and terrifying. On the ground, Minister Jurdy laid there unmoving. His face was as pale as white paper and blood was seeping through his nostrils, eyes, and mouth. Although this human is weaker than this one, she's still alive, Gaia said, walking at Arya. My gut tells me that we should keep this one alive, Michael nodded. Since the girl was just at level 1 of the body refining stage, she should have been dead with the amount of fear toxin she inhaled, yet she was alive, which surprised Michael. He quickly retrieved a small syringe containing the antidote for the fear toxin and threw it to Gaia. While she was injecting Arya, Michael's gaze turned back to the clown in front of him. On a normal day, this clown would have given Michael and Gaia a tough fight, except when the spider exploded, he inhaled the mix of fear toxin and Gaia's poison that Michael created back at the abyssal. Every single spider contained this mix of toxins. He did not think it would be of such use so soon. After he inhaled the toxins, Michael sent pure fear toxin into the room, resulting in Jurdy's death. Considering the clown was at core strengthening level 3, Michael and Gaia did not take any chances as she shot him with an arrow dipped in her poison. Dagger was already affected by the toxin that came out of the spider and the fear toxin, therefore, he could not react in time to reflect the arrow as he would have in his peak form. Now the weakened Dagger could barely be considered as a core formation warrior. Death range. Even with all this, Michael still activated the death range. The very next moment, the darkroom became darker. I have a few questions, answer me and they'll let you live, Michael said, lifting the clown by his neck. Creak. Michael snapped the clown's right hand like a twig when he was about to ask Michael a question. I ask, you answer, not the other way around. Dagger tried to fight through the pain while sensing Lucifer's cultivation level, but he was unable to. Why did you kidnap Jurdy? After realizing he couldn't use a spell under his clutch, Dagger decided to spin him a story to buy enough time. He hoped either the Holy Guards or Guardians would come here to rescue Jurdy somehow. But again, he was the one who picked this place and surrounded it with runes in the first place to avoid anyone coming after Jurdy. I received a contract to kill Jurdy. Why is he laughing? Gaia asked, reaching out at his clown mask to unmask him. You're an elf. When she removed the mask, the one who stared at Michael was a pointy-ear elf. He had patches of red hair, blue eyes, and a burn wound that left a mark stretching from the top of the left cheek, running towards his right nostril and ending on his chin, leaves a bad memory of his unfortunate past. Despite the fact he belonged to the most beautiful race in this world, there was something wicked about him. The burn wound, the way he laughs made Michael wary of him, and Gaia smelled a faint stench coming from his body. Yes, someone cursed this elf. Michael could not notice, but the Nagas were blessed with a heightened sense of smell, therefore, Gaia instantly recognized the reason for the faint stench was a curse. I don't care about that. Who gave you the contract? Michael asked the elf. He couldn't care less of who cursed the elf or why, because the clown was about to steal his kill and use his name Lucifer to hide his tracks, and that punched Dagger the ticket straight to hell. I don't know. Michael noticed the medallion hanging on his chest. He pulled the medallion in the other hand. You're a Grim Reaper, Gaia said. Michael did not forget that it was a group of Grim Reapers who ambushed the dwarf who was building Michael's restaurant. Then why didn't you kill Jurdy in his room? Why did you teleport him here? It's. Seeing how the elf mumbled, Michael realized that he lied about getting a contract to kill Jurdy. Creak. Ah. Michael broke the elf's other hand and weirdly, he screamed and laughed at the same time. By lying, you're just playing with your own life, Michael said while Gaia grabbed one of the daggers lying on the ground. Let's just kill him and ask his student. She raised the dagger aiming at his throat when he screamed. Quinn. Both Gaia and Michael were surprised to hear the name Quinn again. He was the one who has been killing the nobles and helping the fake Lucifer. System, scan Jurdy's body and teleport everyone to Abyssal. The host had only 2,000 badass points remaining. Scanning the body and teleportation to the Abyssal would cost the host 3,000 points. Would you like a loan of 10,000 badass points? Fuck, do it, Michael screamed at the system. A glimmer of light wrapped around Jurdy's body, scanning him for a rune or anything that would give the location of Abyssal to the mysterious person. Scan completed, the system found the rune of tracking in Jurdy's body. 2,000 badass points will be required to remove the rune. Yes, remove it and teleport us now. The familiar light of teleportation wrapped around everyone before disappearing from the room. Gaia saw the throne made of skull and bones and realized she was teleported back to Abyssal by Michael. She knew something must have happened for him to use teleportation without warning her, but she did not question him in front of the elf. What did Quinn want with Gertie? Teleportation was an extremely powerful spell wielded by a few handfuls of people in the world. Even in the elven land, a mage with the ability to teleport was extremely rare and powerful. The way he instantly teleported them made Dagger realize that Lucifer might just be the real devil everyone was claiming him to be. He did not dare to lie again, as his life was more important than Quinn's. He called in a favor. He wanted me to kidnap and bring him to the cabin. That's all I know. I swear, please let me and my student go. By looking in the elf's eyes, Gaia could tell he told the truth about the favor, but when he specifically asked him and the girl to let go, her interest in the girl piqued because an evil person like him mostly wouldn't think about anyone else other than himself. I have one last question. Tell me the truth and I will let you both go. Dagger's body loosened up a bit as a breath of sigh escaped his mouth. Who is that girl and how did she get past the arrays back at Gertie's mansion? Michael noticed a hint of reluctance in the elf's eyes before he opened his mouth to answer. She has the ability to. His voice trailed off, looking at Arya, who was lying on the ground unconscious. She was supposed to be his trump card and the way to rise in power, but now, he had no choice but to reveal her secret. Ability to do what? Hide the arch-energy radiation coming from her body. Behind the masks, Michael and Gaia raised their brows in surprise and shock. He used the junk metal to build spiders just for this exact reason. He thought a living being, especially a cultivator, couldn't hide their arch-energy radiation no matter what. It was supposed to be impossible. Even he could only hide the cultivation level from the eyes of others for a short amount of time, but his presence could still be detected by arrays and cultivators. If what the elf said was true about the girl, she is the perfect assassin for this world until Michael upgrades the system to hide his presence. Dark Queen. Michael turned his gaze at her without losing his grip around the elf's neck. The elf had no time to react before Gaia stabbed the dagger right between his eyes, ending the elf's life in a blink of an eye. You're tuning in to the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.